Welcome to the Condor DM show. Tonight I'm covering the Temple of Elemental Evil. You know, never be shy about going live. Who cares? I just come in, press the button. There we go. I feel like going on now. Live, click, go. Some people get on here and they put a fake up. Like they're nervous, but they'll give you an attitude. Some people talk a little too fast. They can be all over the place. Oh my. Whew. I seen some discussions today about tabletop role-playing games all over the place. People that have egos. You ever get a kick out of seeing a few people that have these egos of like they're elitist, like they're better than you, but they're talking about people being elitist. Like, well, you're talking like you're better than other people, and you're getting mad about other people that seem to think that they're better than other people. That's a little weird. Hi. Hi. How you doing? You know, I have a good talk with any new players that are coming into my game, and I give warnings. I do not run a game on top of a molehill. So if you're not ready to role play and handle things like interacting with NPCs, interacting with the game on top of everything else, you're like, let me bypass this and get to combat. I'll be like, well, first, usually that's solved before the session starts. You'll know where I stand. But if you talk like that, I'll give you a warning. If you're looking for a board game or a video game at the top of a molehill, well, I'll give you one warning. Either you start role-playing right, or you go look for another game, because I run a game at the top of the mountain. I don't run a game at the top of a molehill. So if you want to bring mediocrity to my game by saying, I'll bypass role-play, I'd rather go fight. Well, you can rather go fight off of my fucking table. That's how that will work. Goodbye. See you later, Mr. Mediocre. I don't run the game at the top of a fucking molehill. Right? You want to play a board game, you go find another game. So I have a good talk with players, though. That usually never happens. But if you make the mistake of coming into my game and you're not ready to interact with every aspect of a role-playing game that I'm going to put in front of you, if you're like, let me bypass this so I can get to combat, I'll give you a warning. Either you're ready to play with every aspect of the game, but if you're not, you got to go. I'll give you a warning. And if you keep going back to this molehill gameplay of mediocrity, you'll be off my table. I don't run mediocre games. I don't care. I just don't do it. These are role-playing games. Combat's a part of it. Social interaction is a part of it. All kinds of aspects about the game are there to be true. Sorry for any odd background noise. But yeah. I mean, I seen people talking about this thing, and then there was something about I heard about combat, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't like pissant people. I can't stand running for players that will get into the game and they know what something is, and they'll be like, well, that's not realistic. Well, I'll do you a favor, kiddo. How about this? It is what the game is. And either you play to be good at that or shut your fucking mouth. And if you keep complaining, I'll give you a warning. I don't want to hear it. I don't want, and what you're doing is trying to downgrade what I'm doing. So if you say what I'm doing is shit, I'll give you one warning. Say what I'm doing is shit again. Try it one more fucking time. Open your mouth and say what I'm doing is crap, and you'll be off of my fucking table. There you go. You go back to the top of your fucking molehill and stay there. I just do not appreciate certain things. People that complain, it's a game. Shut the fuck up. And I don't need to boost up my own ego about talking about how much I know about fighting. All this. Like, again, I hear guys out there that will talk with an attitude and ego like they're better than you, and then complain about other people that act like they're better than other people. I'm like, well, you're doing what you're complaining about. So how about get the stick out of your ass, stop acting like you're better than other people, and then complaining about, oh, other people acting like they're better than other people. I don't know. And then hearing about D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and the trouble people have with certain people role playing certain aspects of their character, like alignment, like you're a good character, but you're being really cruel. Well, there's not a debate. I always warn players, if you tell me you're going to role play something and there's an aspect that you're just totally ignoring, and you're playing a different type of character that is so opposed to that reality, I'll tell you. And if you come back at me like I don't agree, I'll be like, oh, you thought I was speaking to have a debate? Is that what you thought? You thought I was speaking to hear what you fucking think? No. I'm telling you, it's not this. And either you adjust or I'll adjust your character. That's it. It's not a fucking debate. I don't really care what you think about it. Like, well, I don't agree. Oh, do you have the authority? No. Well, then really doesn't really matter, does it? Right? If you say, well, my alignment is lawful good, but I'm being as cruel as someone who's very chaotic. Okay, but then you're chaotic good. Well, I don't agree with that. Oh, you thought I was having a conversation with you. Is that what you were confused about that part? It's not a fucking debate, kid. I'm telling you, I am the world. I am everything. So it's up to me how I perceive your actions. So the world says you're chaotic, and I'm the world. So my character is the reality that you're in. And when that reality says you're not this, doesn't really matter what you think. That's just how it goes. I don't have these drawn out debates with people. Yeah, usually I never end up in these situations, to be honest, no matter what my attitude is. I'm very clear from the get-go. Good evening. I brought sweet sweat. Yeah, I thought you were saying sweet there. Well, at least you brought some beer with it, I would imagine. I hope so. Hard work there, Black Rose. That's how it works. The Temple of Elemental Evil, man. And look, I played this many, many decades ago, so I had to really rack my brain for what I could remember. And I made sure to go into this as much as I possibly can, right? Try not to miss any element because I want it to be good. And when I get to sort of how to run it, that advice, it's going to be a mix of advice for how to run it and ways a DM can talk to their players and give some heads up on ways they may wish to approach the Temple of Elemental Evil or Hamlet or the whole, basically the T1 series to T4, right? And if you're someone who's only heard about the Temple of Elemental Evil and all the surrounding stuff with that, I'm going to clear the air for you. Tonight, you're going to walk away from here knowing everything. So if you've only heard about it talked in vague terms, you've never tried it, you've never done the Temple of Elemental Evil, but you've heard it's quite famous, you have all these assumptions from what you hear because you hear people talking about Hamlet, you hear people talking about the Temple of Elemental Evil. It's like a dungeon thing. These things are somewhat separate, but within the same realm of each other. But it's almost like there's multiple games in the whole series that you're playing, right? And some people only play Hamlet. Some people only play they speed to the dungeon. I don't want to say too much right now. There's so many details I'll go into later. Bit early, so I got a bit of a back and forth. We'll be at least an hour. I can join for the rest of you. Yeah, I won't be starting till. I mean, the earliest I'll start the cover to this is around 7, which is like an hour or so. I just heard some people talking, and I'm like, there are issues. Some people don't like D&D. Some people, all they do is talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I admit, tonight is a focus on D&D, but I do that once a week. I just I don't pigeonhole myself into just D&D, but I don't have an issue with Dungeons and Dragons either. I don't hate any aspect of tabletop role-playing games. My aim is to love every bit of what we do in this hobby, for the most part, unless I really feel a game brings so much bad practice to what we're doing that I'll have a qualm with it, like 5e. There's so many bad practices with 5e that I think just hurt the experience at the table. Another thing is the harsh experience for game masters with things like miniatures online, like miniature gameplay on the internet. Man, that's look, I don't do miniature gameplay, but I watch guys on the internet do mapping and miniature gameplay, and the amount of work they got to put into things to get very little. Or not knowing much about sandboxing. You do a bunch of prep for, say, a town, just mountains of prep, and then your players interact with 2% of the work you've done. It's like, well, my sandboxing video will teach you how to put in a lot less work, but get a lot out of your work, and understand that naturally, most of your ideas, only a small percentage of them will be actually something the players go after. So learning about improvisation, learning how to set things up, learning about pressure, sandboxing is very valuable to what you do. It's so you don't overkill yourself with prep. If not, a lot of guys will get tired of running games. Like so much on the miniature stuff to me is just the mind-blowing part. I feel bad. And I feel bad for how much miniature gameplay can slow the process down online. And how much slow-paced gaming can hurt the overall experience. But a lot of guys just, they become accustomed to this, but it's not good either. It's like, imagine there's a lot of people in the hobby that get accustomed to very mediocre experiences. I can't. See, that's my issue. I can't do that. I can't partake in a very slow, boring game. So what I do personally, everything I do is for the sake of pace. Now, what about like strategic or tactical play with Theater of the Mind? People tell me you can't do that with Theater of the Mind. The first thing it tells me is they lack experience and knowledge, and they're assuming. Yes, you can. For someone who's done pure Theater of the Mind combat since 1991 as somebody who runs games, yeah, you can do tactical. A lot of tactical gaming in the mind if you have a good game master. If you have mediocre people trying to run the game, and then they tell you their opinions 20 or 30 years later, yeah, they're going to be the guys. If you can't do it, of course you're going to say it can't be done. But the problem is that's ego. That's all ego. It's somebody assuming their lack of talent is everyone's lack of talent. I mean, that's the most egotistic thing I've ever heard. I always say, if I can't do something, there might be somebody out there that can do it. But I will be the first to be honest if I have a hard time with something. But I never say because I lack the skill or whatever to do something that it can't be done. That's all ego. Anytime somebody says something about pure Theater of the Mind combat, like it can't be tactical, I'm like, no, it just means you can't run tactical combat with it. It doesn't mean other people can't. It's your shortcoming. That's the issue there. And you have a giant ego, you have a massive ego that says to yourself, if you can't do something with pure Theater of the Mind, nobody can do it. Well, that's ego. That's just ego. It's just you have a shortcoming, you're lacking, and you have to be more honest about your own personal failures than to place that on everyone's head in the hobby. But a lot of people talk that way. They talk if they can't do something, nobody can. I'm like, dude, it's not that nobody can. It's just you can't. And you have a massive ego that says if you can't do something, nobody can. Yeah, sorry, lots of people can do the thing that you can't do. That's how it is. And we do get a lot of guys like, oh look, I'm a strict game master. I'm not egotistic. Do I say I want to play a game at the top of the mountain? Yeah, but I'm not elite. I'm just honest about hard work, focus, and I explain it. Though there's some people in the hobby that will, I swear, they'll talk about, like, these guys are elitist over here. But you listen to them talk and you're like, yeah, but you're talking like you're better than everybody else. Like, you talk like you're better. And then you complain about other people that think they're elite. Well, dude, right now you're talking with a stick up your ass that tells me you think you're better than other people. And you're clearly not. Like, I don't mind people with some talent to do voices as a game master. Oh, you can do a unique voice. Doesn't make you a good game master. Oh, you're running the game for a lot of snobs like you that like your snobby gaming. It doesn't mean you're good at what you do. Just you got an attitude, and the people you game with got an attitude. Doesn't mean you're fucking up here. Or the 4D people. Oh my. 4D people. The only thing I get mad at them is I totally understand where they're coming from. They care about pace, they'll care about certain elements, but it's the attitude they speak in. And then when you watch them actually game, you're like, well, dude. And there's a lot of people in this hobby that talk with the big boy pants on when you actually watch them do their thing. Yeah, they're not wearing the big boy pants on. It doesn't come out in their talent for role playing, or lack of talent, really. It's nice when you can understand what might be good. It's another thing when you can't really perform. And there's a lot of guys that get on here and talk about certain attitudes. Then when you see them in a game, you're like, well, dude, you got to be able to back it up. You can't talk with that much ego towards people. You can't talk like a snob, like you're better than other people. And then when I watch, you're like, phew. You got to back it up. In action, you got to back things up. Really important. Right. What I do is, anytime I say I do this at the top of the mountain, I'll explain to you how. Right. But I never say that means I'm better than people. I just don't want a lower experience. I will tell you what I think a lower experience is. It doesn't mean I think that person is no good. It's just I think some people like a lack of quality with the game. Like, if you want nothing but combat in the game, you bore me. Like, if you can't appreciate all the other aspects of a tabletop role-playing game, I'm bored. Because there's so many areas of a game we can't even explore or try because you want to jump to combat. It's like, dude, just go play the fucking board game. Because the only way to create all this other stuff is to have you play into the other aspects of the game. Like, you don't want to do social interaction much. You want to get to fighting? All right, that's your board game, dude. Go play the board game. I don't run board games. I like combat. I like every aspect of a tabletop role-playing game. But if you're like, let me bypass this so I can get to combat, I'd be like, no, I don't want to run. I don't want to run a game for you at all. I don't want to shit. I want nothing to do with you in this hobby. I can go have coffee with you. Maybe I'll get to know you in some other part of life. But as far as gaming together, no, I'll kick you off my table. Like, I'll give you a warning. Let's bypass all these other elements, man, and go fight. I'll be like, all right, you want to bypass all the elements? All right, try that again, and you're gone. Right, I'll give you a warning. Then if you go, well, all right, you do it again. All right, dude, you're off the table. Like, if you want to play the game at the top of the molehill, go find a game master that runs games at the top of a molehill. Right? I'm up here at the top of the mountain. That's where I aim to run my game. That's what I'm looking for. And I enjoy combat, but I enjoy every aspect of the game. So I seen people talking today. I took a moment and just went and skittered around, right? Because I was checking some stuff. I was doing some editing on the stuff for tonight, the Temple of Elemental Evil. It's going to be a good one. Going to be covering that very soon. right? But yeah, I went and checked out some stuff, and I was like, such disappointing conversations. Just such deeply disappointing conversations, right? Deeply disappointing. It's like, oh my, it's like everybody talking seems to be close to the same page, right? Right, just so close to the same page. So yeah, I get bored. I like the idea of having a variety of different voices and people wanting to talk about different things. I do. I don't mind any aspect of the game. I think we should be more open. Though some guys in conversations, they can get really stiff on what they think. And if you have an opposing view, it's hard without hard feelings to be in the same conversation. Like you can't say you disagree without being harsh. So it's most of the time you're either walking on eggshells when you're on the same, like say, a panel with somebody you disagree with, or you're just going to be in a conversation with people that just all echo the same shit. And I don't get why people have problems with players. Like I hear so many issues. I'm like, do you guys just not talk? Like it's like I have a rule because I've had players over the years, especially when I try things online. I could tell they're the type of guys that want to rush into a game. Oh, can we just get going tonight? No, dude, we gotta have a talk. Like online player, like see in real life, players here know the deal, but online, I think players are catered to in a certain way, and they have an ask. They want to rush into a game carelessly, and I don't rush into games carelessly. Right, I never do. And if you're a careless player like that, nope, don't want to do it. Can we just make characters tonight and go? No, dude, we gotta have a talk. But why? Like we gotta have a talk. We got to plan things out. We got to make sure we're on the same page because I want to avoid a lot of this crap, right? Like that's just my gimmick. Yeah. Anyway. Sorry about that. 1 second. So yeah, I get picky. Like I don't rush. Oh my cat is being a pain in my bum. Get going, kitten. I just don't rush. I don't rush. You want to know what the most difficult things I hear about people with players in their games are like, have you guys just rushed into the game and not talked to each other? Like have you clarified things with your players before you start? Oh, you haven't? Or how much of a talk did you have? Like, man, I put down the fucking law before I start. Like I let players know this is exactly how I am. And if you fuck around, you'll get a warning. You keep going, you're gone. Oh, I apologize. One moment. All right. One of the rare events where I got company over, like a family member just got home from a trip. So he stopped by. He says, like, I heard your friends are around, no families around. I was like, hey, you can stop by, but I'll be streaming. He's like, could I watch a game at your place? I was like, yeah, sure, I don't care. He's like, okay, I'll watch a game there. I'll come over and sit down to your stream and study. All right. Just got to remind him, I'm on a live stream, dude. Baby, my audience doesn't want to hear what you have to say. Please. So yeah, I don't know. I really make a big issue, and I tell game masters this all the time. Slow players down when you're recruiting for a game. And like, what do you mean? I'm like, you know how you say you have a talk with people? Or like, yeah, I'm like, well, how how on the point are you about where you stand with people? Like, do you lay down the law? Or do you casually tell them and then you get into the game and they test? Players know right away if they test with me, well, go ahead and test. If I say something, you get into the game and go, let's see if I can push. Here's the push. I'll give you a warning. I'll be like, one more time, and you're off the table. And if my friends join, personal people in my life, they know how stiffy I am. They'll tell you, Steven will go watch grass grow before he'll run a game that he's not enjoying. So my friends know I'll hold their feet over the fire more than anyone. I'll make an example out of my own personal friends and my family. And they know this because I've kicked them out of my game. My own friends where I'm like, yeah, you do that one more time, you know the deal. And they're like, yeah. And then they do it again. And sort of, I'm like, all right, dude, you're done. You're done. Yeah, we could talk next weekend. Get your shit, go. Get your shit. And if you take this personal, fine, we won't talk next weekend. See ya. I am like that as a game master, and I always have been. And I do that because I will watch grass grow before I run a game where I do not enjoy what's going on. And look, if you don't have these rules, people walk on you. That's it. If you can't manage your table, people will walk on you. I give a warning, right? I never just initially kick out unless you really, really cross the line. It's very few times I actually go through this, but I have no shame. I'm very forward. I'm ready for conflict at any point in the game with any player. I'm not afraid of it. And what I find better to do, never let things linger. So if you have an issue with a player, say it right away. They start doing something you're not okay with. Nope, dude, you can't be doing that. That got to stop now. If it keeps up, you know the deal. Right? I do not let things linger because you let things linger, they become uncomfortable. But again, my warning is to avoid a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble is to have a solid talk with players and never just rush into a game. Right? I had one guy recently, and I had to have a talk with him about, like, I don't rush into games. He's asking about this potential game I've been, talking about, second edition or whatever. I said, I want to start a server. We can get together and talk about getting a game going. We didn't even decide on the game. We had a sort of loose talk, like, yeah, like these games. Okay. Next week, he's on here, and he mentions to me, so when are we doing character creation? For what? Dude, we barely talked. There was no plans. Now you're asking me about making a character, and we haven't agreed upon a game I'm going to run for you. What characters for what game? It was the most careless, half-assed attempt I'd ever seen at pushing someone into a game. And I'm like, I'll give every game master a warning out there. That's a red flag, right? That's a red flag you want to watch out for. Never rush in. Have the long talk, because you got to consider what you're doing. There's always a chance the game you're going to run is going to last for a while. So if you're going to commit all this time, months, whatever amount of time to a game, you make sure you get things right starting. You never carelessly half-ass going in. It's like, dude, I could be running a game for you for the next year, right? So look, take a breather. Take a breath. We don't get to run. We don't get to rush. And you got to know where I stand, because if you don't, I am not like the next guy. You test the water with me, I'll give you a warning. Test it again, you're off the table. Right? I just do not fuck around. I do not fuck around. And I've been like this for decades as a successful game master, running good, successful games. Why? Why don't I have all the horror stories that I hear other people having? Because I don't put up with shit. I just don't have, like, I hear guys talk all the time. Well, I had a player in here doing this. I'm like, I didn't even know what that's like anymore. It's been decades since I've had a problem with a player, right? Like in a real issue way. Because players know, you come in acting a certain way. Yeah, okay. You'll get your warning. My talk should have solved this. But if somehow you're in the game and you're still behaving this way, you'll get a direct warning. One where I'll call you right out. And another thing is, I don't have debates. Like, if you're not role-playing your character right, yeah, that's you're not role-playing the character good. I don't agree. I'm the world and the reality that your character's in. So I say how it is. And I didn't say this for a debate, dude. So you keep doing it. Either I'll address your character, you say you disagree again, you'll be leaving my table. That will solve the problem right quick, won't it? And trust me, if a player came in not playing their character the way it's the way they put forth, the way we've agreed, I'll give a warning. We can either adjust your character or you can adjust back to this. I don't agree. Dude, I never brought it up for a conversation. This is not a debate. I'm telling you how it is. Right? And either you adjust, and if you don't, and I don't like your attitude, say you don't agree with me again. You'll pack up right now and you'll go. You'll be out of the game quicker than you can fucking shake a stick. Go ahead, try it one more time. Tell me you don't agree. I don't agree. Get your fucking shit, go. Goodbye. Now, I mean it. You're up. You're out of the fucking game. Well, dude, no. You don't test. I give time to test. I'm not here to fuck around. I'm not your mother. I'm not your father. I'm not your fucking therapist. I'm a guy running a game, right? So don't play me off like I'm your family that's going to be reasonable with you. I'm not your mother. I'm not your father. I'm not your fucking therapist, right? I give you a heads up. You get disrespectful and I give you a warning. That's be lucky I gave you a warning. Appreciate it. And if you don't take the warning serious, you go. And new school people, they can say what they want about that attitude. But I'm like, why don't, like, I have successful gaming without the horror stories. You have a lot of gaming too, but with a bunch of horror stories and unsuccessful things, and you're unhappy. And I know this because I hear your complaints all the time. You're not as strict as I am, and you're unfucking happy. You have miserable fucking experiences in this hobby, and I don't. And there's a reason I don't. You put up with shit, I don't. That's it. Now, again, my friends and family will know for sure I'm that strict, so they won't fuck around. Now, I'm not strict like it, and I don't look. This is the way it is. I've had players play with me for years, and they'll be like, I never had any negative experience with Steven at all. Not one time. Had a great, happy, positive experience with him the entire time. Want to know why? They simply play the game. They don't fuck around. Now, when you're on that end, you'll think I'm the greatest fucking person in the world. But if you're the guy that fucks with me, you'll hate my guts, and I won't care. So you get a choice. Either you can just play the game and have fun, and you'll think I'm a fucking great, grand fucking human being. And you'll never know any negative experience with me. You'll think I'm a really nice guy, and I will be to you. You get in, and you become the fuck around. What I tell my other players that are good, do not worry, right? I'm the best filter in the world. Because I'll make sure your experience stays good by keeping idiots out of the game. Right? I'll give people opportunities to adjust attitudes. And I'll warn them. I'm not like the last guy, dude. But people like to test the water. That's why I give a warning. And a warning is fair. You can't just say I'm kicking people off the table. My other players will know I'm going to give a player a warning. And I think that's as fair as you can be. I know a lot of guys that will just kick people out of the game. I don't just do that. I give a warning. But I'm just old school strict. And people are like, oh, you're being an asshole. No, I'm just creating a good experience for me and the people at the table. So trust me, the horror story where the guy tests the water and he keeps fucking around, that's an asshole ruining your experience and other people's experience. Right? I make sure that guy doesn't get their way. That's all it is. And if you say, oh, you sound like an asshole because of that, Steven, I'm like, well, look, put it this way. I'm a wolf, and I'll deal with the other wolves that should not be coming and trying to bite and bark at the game. Right? So I'll be a great filter to keep idiots out of the game. And let's be honest, we're in a hobby where there's a lot of weirdly antisocial people here. A lot of people act up and cross the line. And guess what? You can't pamper them or baby them into it. And I am not your mother or father. I'm not going to pamper an asshole. I'm not going to be like, Well, hey, look, you show certain people weakness, they'll just keep walking on you. That's why it's like I've just learned this. I've been doing this since 1991. If you keep showing weakness, people will fucking walk on you. You just can't. There's some people out there. Now, here's the good thing. Most people adjust because they want someone who won't put up with their shit. I get a lot of players that you could check out their history. They acted up in this guy's game. They acted up in this guy's game. They come in, fuck around. I put them in their place. They adjust. And so some people just need someone not to put up with their shit or show them weakness. And they adjust. It works. And if you really don't, you become one of the rare people that get kicked out. And even though I say all this, no matter what my attitude is right now, very few times have I actually had to kick people out. Very few times. I mean, it happens, right? But it's compared to the amount of gaming I've done, it's very few times that it happens. But at least I don't have all these horror stories, and I have a hard time relating with them. I hear people tell me players play like this in my game. They won't listen. They don't try. I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're going through. I have it sounds so foreign to me that I don't even understand what you're saying. Like guys that just want to skip straight to combat. Well, I've had a good talk with my players before they ever start the game. They'll know before they start that is unacceptable. It's like I tell people, don't expect a balanced session. Don't expect nothing. I go with whatever is wherever it flows. And if you have an expectation, here's what you do with your expectation. Don't complain to me because I'm not going to adjust. Because if you do complain to me, I'll give you a warning. Keep shooting your mouth off and you're unhappy with this. You have a choice. You can either shoot both in your mouth off and I'll have you leave the table, or you can leave on a volunteer basis, or you can stay and just play to what's in front of you. That's your choices. Like, I don't give a fuck. Right? It's just, I'm not going to care. I'm just not going to care. My deal is, I ask all players, don't complain about what's going on, because that means, here's what it tells me about you as a player right away. If you're focused here, if your mind's out here, right, but I have the game actively in front of you, that means you're not even focused on playing the game. So you're not giving me an opportunity. And if you expect everything in one session, you're still not giving me an opportunity. These games have a varied experience, right? Some sessions can be a lot of combat. Some sessions can be a lot of interaction. Some sessions can be mixed, right? Sometimes the combat can be a mix of combat and interaction. But I worry about putting quality in front of you. So I need you to focus on just playing the game. And if you can't get into the flow, not at my fault, but at your own fault, because you can't focus, like you choose to come in and your mind is elsewhere and you're not attempting to just simply play the game, well, then you're not a good player. That's on you. And I'll give you a warning. Either focus on playing the game or get moving, dude. Just get moving. Like, I'm not putting up with it. I'm not here to run Monopoly. So, that's just my take. If you want to play the game at the top of a molehill, you're going to find you need to go find a game master that runs games at the top of the molehill, right? That's because that's the game that you want. So you're not asking for the game at the top of the mountain. You're asking for a game at the top of the molehill. And I just don't do molehill games. I know they bore me. Like, I don't lower myself. So social interaction is a part of the game. Dealing with things are a part of the game. Combat is a part of the game. And it's your job is just to interact with the game and all these elements. And you don't worry about how much is there. You worry about how good the experience is. So if we went through a session where you're doing a lot of talking, but you're focused, you actually focus and play, here's what I promise my players, you'll have a good time. And that will be it. That's the real aim. So if you end up doing a lot of talking, you'll have a good time talking. If we do a lot of combat, I'll make sure it's a good time doing combat, right? If we do a mix, you'll have a good time doing some talk, some combat. Just focus, man. Make whatever's in front of you the thing you're focused on doing and working with, because that's how I get you into the flow. Now, it's if I have to, I don't like players that do this. If we get rid of the phone, I'm focused on keeping you in the game, and you still choose to think about other things instead of focus and play. That's on you, dude. That's on you. That's a red flag, right? You're an issue. You're not a good player, and I won't count you as one, because a good player simply gives me an opportunity, right? That's what a good player does. Good player just plays. And if they just focus on playing the game and dealing with what's in front of them, I'll get them into a flow, right? And that's my opportunity. That's all any game master can ask from a player, is give them an opportunity. Get in and focus on what is in front of you, what you're doing. That's it. Focus on that. Don't worry about what we're not doing. Worry about what you are doing. Be in the now. Don't think about later. Don't think about what we haven't done. Just focus on what's happening in the moment. And if you keep focusing on moment to moment going forward, that's all a game master can ask you to do, is give them an opportunity that way. And if moment to moment gameplay gets you focused, you're playing, you're not thinking about what you haven't done, you're not worried about a phone, you're not worried about all this. If in moment to moment gameplay you give me that opportunity, and even under those conditions I can't get you there, that's on me then. Right? But you need to give me the focus. Very important. Very important. But this is why I don't rush into games with people. I don't rush into games with new players. And it's not extreme. Look, it's not hard. It just sounds hard to sometimes have to get people to where you want them. Think about it. All I'm doing is asking somebody, focus on the game in the now, right now, in the moment. Just focus on what you're doing. That's all you got to do. It's not really a hard ask. Paying attention is not a hard ask. It's only a hard ask when players make it hard for them to do simple things. Like you're choosing to think about the thing we haven't done. Okay, you're not focused on actually playing in the now. You could just do that. It's not hard to do. It's not an extreme ask, but you make it hard for me to get you there. Well, if you're that type of player, you're making it hard for me to get you to do something very simple, right? So, and why am I like this? Because I warn game masters, really, this will run you away from wanting to do this. It will dry you out. It will slow you down. It will make you not enjoy the experience. And when you get to start a game with new players, or even players you know already, you have to make sure things are understood, because there's a potential that you could be gaming with these people for months. So it's like, dude, I don't mind committing a lot of time to you, but that means the way we go into this can't be careless, because I have to do a lot of work, right? Even if I do some sandboxing and improvising at the start, there's a lot of work I have to do in between sessions, a lot of work. And I'm willing to do that work, hey, say. I'm willing to do all that work for any group of players. But it means you can't half-ass your way in. That's why I said earlier, I had recently a player online here. We had a vague talk about games. I just said, join a server. We'll get together to see, if everybody can get together, have a talk, maybe come up with an idea of a game we could play, and we'd start doing something. Right? I'd work something out, maybe write up come up with an idea for a campaign, come up with a pitch. We had a vague conversation. And it's just because I see so many guys doing this, I can't believe it. We had a vague conversation, didn't agree on the game, didn't even agree what system or game or campaign. I swear he shows up in the chat and says to me, so dude, I hate to call you out, but when we were making our characters, it's like, you're not calling me out on anything, dude. What the fuck are you talking about? The fuck is this? what is this shit? We had a vague talk on the server about, oh, you like this game? I like this game too. Next week, well, I hate to call you out when we're making our characters. All right, first off, we had a vague talk. We haven't agreed on the system. I don't know who would be playing. I haven't come up with a pitch for any campaign or story, whatever the fuck I want to put together for this. I haven't done anything. And here you're asking me when we're going to make characters. Make characters for what? So that's I get really picky. You got to slow roll into a game. And I'll tell people they don't like a slow roll. A lot of people want to play, they want to start something that night. And I'm like, dude, I could be here for months with you. There's a lot of work to game mastering. I don't mind committing to it, but we just got to get on the same page. Got to get on the same page. Really important. Another thing I noticed is just, I was saying earlier, miniatures with online gaming. I don't know. That's miniature gameplay. That's when I think I would especially tell people to sandbox more and not prep so much. Like I see so many guys have a town. I'll be asking them like an online game master I know. Recently, just talked to the guy. I said, "Oh, dude, I'm not going to play. Can you be open with me and show me the work you've done?" He sends me over 23 pages of prep. And I said to him after just skimming most of them, I said, here's the deal, dude. How long did you work on this? He said, it probably took me about a week and probably 11, 12 hours. I said, you spent all week on this, didn't you? He's like, yeah, man, I gave up all my free time to get this done for a potential game. I was like, dude. And you expect players to play with a lot of it, right? Yeah. I said, all right, well, I said, I got some disappointing news for you. He's like, what? I said, they'll interact with maybe 2% of the work you've done here. He's like, come on, man, they'll want to do more. Nope. Well, 2 weeks went by. He came back to me and said, how'd you know? Like, dude, I've been doing this since 1991. That's how I knew. Yeah, I said, I knew he had wasted 12 hours. Complete waste. You're not going to use the work for the future? He was honest with me, probably not. You used all your free time to get that done, right? Yep. So you did 12 hours of work, 23 pages of prep. And I said, I bet you used half a page, maybe. And he was like, yeah. This is why I teach people the sandboxing method. Because sandboxing is easy to achieve. It lets you not do a mountain of prep at the start. You find out what players want to do, and then you start working on where the players are taking the game. So then your work becomes more effective for what you're doing for the game, and it's just as good. And you'll have fun. You'll be creative. You'll be able to do all that. And there you don't got 22 and a half pages of work that you've done that go nowhere. And I said, look, dude, the same thing will happen to you on your next game. Do another 12 hours, half a page will get used. That's why I teach sandboxing. It's so effective because then at least your hard work becomes something that is more something players focus on. Because you can't predict. It's impossible, especially when you give freedom. That's an issue with giving freedom. That's why a lot of DMs, old school DMs, when they do their modules, they'll still argue that railroading is a good thing. But why do they do that? It's just because then they can force you onto the work they've done. Like they prepped or what the module expects. That's why a lot of DMs want to railroad. I was like, that's why. But was I right? And how many DMs out there, of D&D especially, will relate with what I just said? Tons. The majority. You give any freedom outside of a railroad and you do a shitload of work, it will be a little bit will get touched on. That's why you don't do that. And you can really learn that if you play other games. Like playing Traveler is a great way of learning when you put a number of hooks in, because Traveler, you don't do that much prep on purpose. So Traveler is a great way to experience the expectations you're put under with a sandbox, because then you find out, yeah, I had all these ideas, but the players only went over here and did this. And you start realizing most of your further ideas will have nothing to do with what you could have potentially wrote out, right? Because you just can't tell. You go with the flow. It's good to know these things. Again, it's good to establish things. That's why I say, even though I'm really harsh GM or game master overall, I barely ever have to enforce it because I slow roll and talk to players. I never half-ass. It's a red flag. Really don't half-ass your way into a game. Like, just, I'm sorry, if players cannot understand that you need to go in at a pace and have a talk and make sure they know where you stand, make sure they know what game, like, oh, you guys got characters ready? Oh, you don't? Okay, well, like you can only do so much to wrangle in players and make sure they're on a certain path. But a lot of players that will come to you when you recruit, you got to be careful, especially if you're online. A lot of players are rushing to recruit to play really soon. But that means they don't really have a respect for the potential process that's going to go forward. It's like, dude, I'm not half-assing because you might want to approach the game in a way that I don't want to run the game for you. I don't want to have a bad time. So if you play a certain way and I'm not happy with it, I will go watch grass grow before I run the game for you. Like, you'll have no control here. So either you understand you just don't have the authority to push into the game like that, and you need to understand where I'm coming from. And we got to have that intimate talk. Right? Like, that's why I've been doing this since 1991. And again, the horror stories for me are few and far between because I make sure people talk. Like, I talk to them before we start. I make sure everyone's on the same page. And I don't mind a slower process of getting that new game started. Let's talk. Let's see where you're at. Let's have a structured bit of dialogue to make sure we're all on the same page. And if the only dialogue I can have with you is half-assed dialogue, we won't get there. Like, I just won't let it. I won't let it go there. And people know that about me. I'll just be like, okay, I tried to talk to these guys. They're half-assing. Okay, I'm not going to keep pushing. That's it. Okay. Yeah, I'll let things linger on. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to keep asking. If I say, hey, let's slow our roll and have a talk. What game? Let's have a structured conversation. If you're not ready for that, I don't know what you're looking for. And I don't rush into games because, again, I could be committing for months. And once we get a game started, we'll be happy to get the game started and get going. But understand the reason I'm looking for a slow roll in is because I want to run a good, structured, very high-value game. And I'm going to be running a pair, and I expect players to focus and take the game serious. And I want to have that experience with you. I don't want to babysit you like I'm your mother or father. And I'm not a therapist. I'm a guy running a game for you. So just don't come at me with your personal fucking issues. Just either come ready to play the game seriously or get going. I won't have the horror story. People have asked me for advice. Steven, how do you deal with a player that plays in a way that you're like unhappy with? I give him a warning. If he doesn't adjust, he goes. That's it. That's my advice. And if I give you a warning, there's no debate. If I say I'm unhappy with something and you go, well, I don't agree with you. Well, if you keep it up, you're gone. So really, I don't understand what you're agreeing. I don't even understand the point of your words. And if you say something like you're trying to degrade what we're doing in the game, I'll be like, okay, you're calling down what I'm doing? Well, I'm just saying, no. Is what you're saying degrading what I'm doing? Is that the outcome of your words? Do that again, you're off the table. So go ahead, keep talking. See if you're going to be around. See if I'm going to have a horror story with you. Ain't going to happen. Just not going to happen. Now, I think my attitude comes from, I don't know, some people tell me, like, Steven, what choice do I have? These are my friends. These are the people I game with. That's where I've had a serious rule when I started in 1991. I gave myself a rule, a personal rule. And that's why I say it all the time. I will go watch grass grow before I will run a game I'm unhappy with. That means if I have to tell people, okay, I'm so unhappy with the group here that I'm just going to stop. Game's over. Like if I was in that spot and I couldn't recruit other people, be like, well, Steven, you're not going to get other players. Okay, well, I'm not going to game for a while. Like that's it. Fair enough. I'll take a time out in the hobby. Like that's it. Because I got to do a lot of work. So either I'm happy or if I'm unhappy. Like now, look, I won't look to make players unhappy. All my request turns into a good experience for players. So I know I'm not asking players something that will ruin their experience. And if I was doing that, well then, okay, that would be unfair. But all I'm doing is saying, look, there's nothing I'm asking out of any player that ruins what they'll be doing in the game. And if they really are unhappy with me, they can go find another game because we got to be on the same page. Like if you want to play a board game and I don't want to run a board game, it doesn't work. And so at that point, fair enough. Like let's part ways. I'll go watch the grass grow. I'll go do something else in life. I'll go without a game for a while. So whenever I hear people out there say, well, these are my friends, or I only game with these people, so it's not like I have much of a choice. I'm like, well, you do. But it might not be the choice that everybody wants, but what's better? Like, what would you rather do? Game with people and have a shitty time? Like, what's the point of gaming? Or just stop? I'd be like, if I only had a small selection of people to game with, and because they would not adjust, I would just say, look, dude, as much as I like doing this, I'll just go do something else with my time. And it might not be this, but there's other things I can do to be happy with. So if I have to give up gaming for a certain point, I would. So whenever I hear horror stories from people that tell me they're not like me. Now, I'm a public game master, meaning I've always recruited at public places, been open taking strangers in. So I've always had the choice, and I'm in gaming communities, have been all my life. So I've always had players on the sidelines waiting to get in. I've never been able to, I never had to worry about filling up a table. So even if I had somebody who had to go, okay, dude, you're off the table. I have somebody in right away. And that's been like that for me for decades, right? So I would say I'm almost spoiled there. But even for the people that are unlucky to not be spoiled, my advice to them is always, well, dude, you get two choices. Like you can either have a shitty experience or give it up. Like take a time out in the hobby until you finally run into the people that you want to game with. That's it. That's all you got to do. Well, I'd rather play the game. Well, then, dude, it's up. I tell people it's up to them. I don't have a qualm. Look, if you want to go have a shitty experience with players that are going to make you unhappy, go do it. Just my experience is going to be foreign. Like what you're doing is alien to me. So when you tell me you've had a player that does this and we had to put up with that for so many months, I'll be like, wow, yeah, I don't even know what that's like, dude. If I met that player, I give him the warning. He doesn't straighten it up. God, instantly. There'll be no months. There'll be no 10 sessions in. I wouldn't be used to that guy playing that way. And again, my friends and family know that, and they know I'll kick them out first. Like just to make the point. My friends and family have actually gotten kicked out of my game. So they'll be like, yeah, Steven's dead serious. Dead serious. Doesn't matter if you're his best friend or you're his family member. If you don't do things a certain way, I just go, goodbye. Now, people get offended when I talk to them this way about how I am as a game master. But I'm like, in reality, in practice, there's very few times I ever have to do that. So in reality, no matter how strict I sound to people, lucky me is most people aren't a problem. Right? So again, that's where it's alien to me to even hear people go through this. I'm like, most people aren't really a problem. So most players are actually pretty good at just focusing on the game and playing. As long as you have a good talk with them, that's the most necessary part of the process. I have found to make things stick well. Don't rush when you start a new game. Have a real talk with people to know see you're all on the same page. Social contract. You make sure you establish for real where you stand. Don't be shy, and most people will understand where you stand. That's it. They'll know. So most of the time, you're fine. Though you get these odd moments in life where you run into it, and it's like, and there'll be all kinds of opinions out there and advice out there for people to deal with bad players like that. And I'm just like, dude, I got done because I don't put up with it. There you go. So that's why when I heard about the IP talk with Star Wars and Star Trek recently, and the purist talk I hear from people with things, I'm like, I don't even know what that's like. Like all these complaints I hear from game masters online sound alien to me. Like I don't even relate with it. Like I don't even know what they're going through. Like they're like, yeah, players that don't take a certain NPC serious. My players just don't take the game serious. So they just take the game serious. It's like anything I put in front of my players, they just take serious. Like you don't casually want to fuck around too much in my game and be careless. So when you meet an NPC, it just players will take what I'm doing serious. Right? And they know if they have an attitude, it's not against me with an NPC, but they got to be watchful because they'll know things like if Steven puts a certain type of NPC in front of us and he is serious, Steven usually understands that he's going to have a serious reason why they're serious or why they might seem like this way. Or if I present something in a certain way, they better know to take it serious because behind that is some reality. I'm really thoughtful about what I do. And so if I put something there in front of you, you can react to a certain way, but it just means in my game, my players would be like, we're very courageous if we're dealing with this guy because we'll push that aside. But we know in reality, it's like I hear about guys that have had the issues with the murder hobos in D&D or even in other games as well, where players will have their characters running through, killing everybody in the village or the town. Experienced player in my game would just, even if somebody said, like, let's kill everybody here, like some new player, my experienced players would be all like, no. Well, why not? Because we'll probably all die for sure. Like, we will not run around killing everybody. We'll start that way. But the consequences in his game of running around and just killing everybody in the town, fuck no. It will be hell. It will be absolute hell. They don't want to try it. My players would take that serious. Doesn't mean they're just scared of things. They just take. It's because I put a lot of serious things in the game. Like it's like, look, do you think the town would be in the middle of nowhere, and with all the possible threats around it? Do you think that town would still be standing if goblins could just walk in and kill everybody, or monsters could, or magic could just easily take this whole place out? Do you think it just stands because it's conveniently there, like just for story's sake? No, there's a town in the middle of nowhere. It's surrounded by evil, magic, monsters, and everything else. There's a reason why that town is still up and going. And if you start fucking around that town, you're going to find out why it hasn't just been taken over by orcs, goblins, why that just isn't something you can just do to the town out in the middle of nowhere. Right? There's a reason it still stands, and you're going to run in. You're going to encounter that reason if you fuck around in my game. Right? Like you'll encounter the reason. Like here's the reason this little fucking village out in the middle of nowhere is still standing without just being demolished. There's a reason. And it's like my players will know there's a reason, and to never just think something is just there for some convenient game gimmick, right? If something still stands somewhere, it's usually because there's a good reason as to why. So better take it serious. It doesn't mean I look to punish players in the game. I don't have to. I I never do. If you could pull off running around the village in my game, killing everyone, I won't look to punish you. I don't care what you do. It's just I will have things there, and those things will come out in the process of what you're doing. And well, we'll see if that thing punishes you in its own right, like the village itself, for doing what you're doing. But yeah, I'm not saying people can't get away with stuff, but and the other thing is I don't go looking for killing characters off in games or ending people. It's just all my players will know Steven is the most fair-minded game master you'll ever encounter in your life. But you just you're gonna die. You're gonna die. Just like the Protoss ref StarCraft, he's made it back. I'd say about 10 minutes, Black Rose, maybe a little slightly more. We'll start probably after this. We'll start the Temple of Elemental Evil. It's going to be good. Had to talk with people because I heard a bunch of people talking today about different elements of the game and how they approach the game. It's hard for me to react to anything I see other so-called TTRPG people covering because they'll just complain about somebody else's video or they'll cover politics. Like, dude, I don't really cover politics on things, so I'm not going to react to that. Or I'm not going to react to haters either, people that do content about me. I don't care. So I just, I was being nosy. What were people talking about today? Because I noticed 2 streams on. Now, I usually don't have time, but I had time. I'd done a bunch of editing this morning. I went and checked out what people were talking about. It was just same old shit. No doubt. But just give me alien shit, right? Oh, yeah, don't worry. Probably nothing you haven't heard before to a degree. Nothing you haven't heard before, my friend. But I talk. When no one else is talking, it leaves me to talk. I get to fill space in, baby. I get to fill space in. And it's not like I'm covering another topic. You know me. It's hard to want to talk about certain topics unless there's chat bringing it up. Because, well, first off, if chat brings up something, I'll definitely answer. But most of my content is topics that are saved for videos or streams or something. So I'm just reacting to what I heard today, like alien stuff, like people acting bad in games. Like here's a thing, Black Rose, I was telling people. Back in the day, in 1991, when I started, I said to myself, I don't care if I'm limited on players. If players act in a way that I don't want and they won't adjust, I'll stop the game. And I'll go without a game. I'll go watch grass grow instead of gaming. Like I will just refuse to be like, well, you're acting a certain way. Okay, man. If you guys need to adjust. Well, we don't want to. Well, then there's 3 of you that would, right? Sorry, guys, not enough of you. I'm done. I'll go watch grass grow. I'll take a time out in the hobby for a while. Like guys would know that about me. I'd be that strict that it's like either I'm happy doing this or I'm not. I'm just not doing it. So I'm glad I'm a public game master and have been over the years where if a player acted up in a way I didn't like, I can give them a warning. If they didn't adjust, move them out of the game. And the other thing is I don't have this debate stuff. Like I don't really care. Like if I'm unhappy with something, I say, okay, we've agreed what your character is. You're not playing your character. You need to start adjusting how you play your character. I don't agree. Well, so you're not going to? No, I'm going to play the way I want. Okay, well, I don't have to wait for anything. You're off the table. But what do you mean, man? Well, I'm the world. I'm reality. So either we adjust your character, which we could do. Okay, so your character's not that no more. We can accept a different character. Let's agree upon that. But you can't keep saying your character's that and do that. I don't agree with it. Doesn't matter if you agree. I never brought it up as a debate, dude. It's not a conversation. I'm just telling you how it is. There's no debate. I'm the world, I'm reality. Most players aren't that bad, though, Black Rose. Most players aren't that bad. But it's just so alien to me to hear people give me these stories where they put up with a bad player that wouldn't adjust how they behave. And I'm like, I hear about these stories, but I'm like, dude, I just won't do it. You adjust. That's it. And the other thing is I don't speed into games where a lot of people, and it's a red flag to me. I hate when players try to rush into a game. Like, it's like, I think you've seen that. And I think you were here recently for that night. That guy said on the chat, he's like, I hate to call you out in the middle of your stream, but like, when are we making the characters? And the thing I talked to him afterwards, but really, here's the talk me and him had before this happens. We had a vague talk. Remember, I was inviting people to a Discord channel where we could potentially decide, have a talk, have a conversation. Whoever shows up, people could agree on a game. I could come up with an idea, find out what kind of characters they want to play from the game, right? Sort of figure it out, have that conversation, right? So I could have time to do the social contract with them, tell them where I stand as a game master, have the proper talk, right? The week before, all he did was come in and said, I like this game. I like this game. Cool, man. And I said, well, maybe we could do this. Maybe. I only got one reply from him. Yeah, I don't mind second edition. Never talked about anything else. No social contract. No. That's the vague conversation we had. The next week he's on here. You were here for it, I think. And he says to me, I hate to call you out, but when are we rolling up those characters? Well, first off, who's we? And we said we both like a game, but I got no reaction from any other player in the thing. Like, it was so half-assed. It was such a major red flag that, and I get guys love to speed into these half-assed ways. I'm like, well, no, this is where you run into the problems. We got to have a proper conversation, my friend. We got to have a real conversation. I got to get others involved. I got to know people want to play that game. Then we can talk about potential characters. I can also give you guys a heads up on how I game master. Then I could start putting something together, like a pitch an idea for a campaign once we've had a good talk, right? Then we can talk about, even in that process, maybe I could tell them how they could go about making characters. They could do that during that process. But I had this 2 seconds of talking to the guy. No plan, no nothing. Oh, it was, forget the guy's name. Let me see. He was here for like 2 seconds in the chat, but I think his name is Resnet. Yeah, Resnet. That's the guy. Resnet, completely half-assed. Guy barely knew what like, we didn't even play anything out. It was such a half-assed talk. It was like this just, yeah, I like second edition. Okay, no plans, no nothing. That was it. That's all that was really said. The next week of the chat, he's like, well, I hate to call you up, but when we were rolling up characters. Huh? We haven't even agreed. We haven't had a talk. We haven't agreed on a campaign. We haven't agreed on who I'm going to run for. Nothing. Completely half-assed. Most half-assed red flag thing I've ever seen before in a long time. I've seen guys try to rush in that way, but that was weird. It was weird. There's no plans, and here he is publicly saying, I hate to call you out, but I'm like, call me out for what? We haven't planned it. There's nothing to call me out on. But it's the way he acted with it. And I was like, okay, that's weird. No plan, no structure, no talk, no agree on a game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I've seen him talk recently. There he is. So it's that problem. So yeah, he was in a chat doing that. I was like, At first, I'm thinking, like, what are you trying to make me look stupid? But I'm like, no, he's just probably a careless player, right? Probably has some, he had these assumptions in his mind about what, I guess, what our 2 seconds of talk meant. It was the most vague thing I've ever seen. I went back and just read the interaction between me and him. It's only me saying, okay, guys, we're all together. Here's some games I like. And he's like, yeah, I like a few of them. That was like it. That's all he says. Next week, when are we rolling up these characters? For what? For what? Most half-ass thing I've ever seen in my fucking life. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have one more. I have one more pop, but that was careless. And I like to take my time and have a structured conversation with people because it's like Black Rose. I look at it this way: I could be game mastering for you for months, and I'm okay with doing the work, but I want to make sure you know things so we don't have conflict. Like, it's doing this lower process is good. It's what avoids most of the conflict you have with people. It's like, let's set a social contract, right? Let's agree on the game we're all going to, and who else is even going to fucking play? I was like, think of this guy. Maybe he was a player who didn't play that much, which is, I think, maybe a lack of experience. And that would make more sense to me. He probably lacks a lot of gaming experience. Probably knows next to nothing about what you do to get a game going. That happens to some players. They'll go to play a game with somebody, and somebody will give them a pre-made character, and they'll jump in and play. And they play for like 2 weeks, and that guy's like done on some like one shot. And that's all they know by the time they're talking to you. But his name was Resnet. Yeah. I've had no interest in talking to the guy since. Like, Jesus, guy. Pull your head out of your ass, dude. Right? Lack of common sense. Not too bright. That's another thing. It's a red flag because I think if you're rushing in that carelessly into a game that's a mind game where you got to think, it's like, dude, I don't think you're that bright. Maybe this is like, maybe you should go play Monopoly for real. Or something in that vein, right? Hate to say it. Hate to be so picky on some people. Sounds mean, but some people just are not that bright. They're not, right? Oh. Then I heard about Scott Garibay being pissy. Somebody was telling me somebody was complaining about Scott Garibay again, hating on the OSR. I'm like, he's attacking the OSR. It's the way they paint it up for content. I'm like, well, okay. There's other YouTubers that, like, if Scott's that bad for it, what about other YouTubers that I know that nobody says anything much about? But if you go listen to their streams, they shit on D&D and OSR. I mean, take a complete, like, you think Scott Garibay is bad. I know a guy who some people like. I would imagine he goes on a certain panel. Go listen to his. He'll have guys on where they'll all talk shit about D&D and the OSR. So if the purpose of going after Scott is something more than content, cheap rage bait content, well, then what about these guys over here? They do entire streams where they talk shit about D&D being trash and the OSR being no good. Like, constantly. Constantly. And they complain about other people that talk about D&D or the OSR. I'm like, well, there's lots of people that don't like the OSR stuff because it's clones, and a lot of people don't like D&D. My channel here, well, could be young though. Don't know. Like I said, young, not that bright though. Yeah, I hear you. There's a horrible delay. Almost a minute. Connect the chat to topic at hand. I hear you. I try to read some of the stuff on the side here. Could be young. I don't know. Black Rose, you're a nicer guy than me. Like, you always look for the reason somebody might be innocent. I don't know. There's a certain thing where I don't care how young you are. Remember, I started when I was 7 years of age. The whole idea of being young and not that bright, like, you can still be young and not stupid. So the idea of young and stupid is just not an excuse. Like, it's still like, if you're like 15 and you're acting up, you're dumb. Like, the aging really doesn't matter to me. It's, so I look at it like this. I just don't give the same, like, because somebody's young doesn't make them stupid. I know lots of young people in the hobby that do not approach the game that way. Like, I'm in a gaming club down here. Lots of young guys are very fucking wise and intelligent when it comes to these are nerds. So the idea that somebody gets to be a fucking useless, dumb fuck because they're 15, it's okay, Steven. He might be okay. He's 15, but he's fucking dumb as shit. He's dumb. Problem is, the culture nowadays, people really are dumber, at least socially, than back in our days. Well, I hear you. There's more people. Doesn't mean there wasn't people that were dumb back in the day. There's more people now. But still, I don't give excuses. And to me, you don't get better behavior when you make excuses, Black Rose. Like, you become a problem for your own situation. There is criticism and heat that should be put out there that puts pressure on people, right? Social pressure. So if you keep excusing how people behave, other people just keep behaving that way because they think they have an excuse. Like, well, hey, man, I was just acting stupid too because I'm young, guys. Right? So when something is dumb, you got to be more direct about it and call it what it is. And you got to shame people. Shame is a good thing. Not all the time. It's not, if you're just using it to attack people, it's no good. But social shame to adjust how other, like, say, I don't care how this guy acts, but I want every other fucking young person that might come by my content to hear this and go, yeah, I don't want to be that dumb. Right? To just meaning how social media delays social developments and sorely need it in the younger generations. Yeah. But in a way, you're still responsible for yourself. I don't actually think social media does that much to you. I think it's still you. That's the problem. Like, that's where we would disagree, Black Rose. I actually think, like, if you're manipulated, well, who made the choices? Who's reading the thing half-assed? And I know lots of young people that don't do. So I actually know a lot of young people that are on social media that aren't just stupid because they're on social media. It's because of personal choices. So it's like if you're taken to a shop where there's a lot of things and you have two choices. You can control yourself or grab a bunch of things you shouldn't grab. And who's at fault? The store for having the options or the person who abused the options? See, and does society get much better? I hear it, but does society get much better when you're always blaming the shop and not the person? So if you take a kid to social media and they carelessly act like it makes them stupid, is it social media that's bad? Or is it the kid? And there are a lot of young people that still like aren't stupid that way. So there's a lot of young people that have access to social media that act fine, focus, read, have no problems. No, but I'm talking about young people too. It's not like, you look, put it this way. We were 12 years old, Black Rose. It doesn't mean we were fucking dumb and couldn't make our own choices. And there's a difference. When we went to school with kids, some of us were idiots. Some weren't. The ones that didn't make bad choices usually perform better, got ahead of you. And they were able to make better choices. So the idea that you're a bad choice is because something, it's usually because of you, even at a young age. And to excuse your responsibility away at a young age, no. You can be responsible at the age of 12 or 15 for what you do. And we know lots of young people that chose to do better things, and were capable of choosing at those ages and did better. So the idea that you're not capable, just hard to have a discussion on the topic without spending a lot of time and delve into it deep. There would be a closer to an agreement, I think. I just think overall, it's just a general thing. It's like, how deeper do you got to go? And you got to be careful with how much you play a word game, because if your conversation leaves you to such a middle ground where there's nothing acknowledged that's solid, the conversation becomes no good to begin with. So I think there's solid, like, just truths. At a young age, are you still capable of making decisions that don't lead you here, right? And it's not saying I don't get that there's some things like you can think of it like manipulation, but it's like it's who's allowing it to manipulate. It still comes down to, could social media manipulate a kid who's making bad decisions? Like, he's making bad decisions and then it manipulates them. Yes, but who's responsible then? Social media or the kid? And I still say it's 100% on the kid. It's still on them to make their choices in life. At a certain age, it's available to you. You know, other young people around you are doing better things. And social media, for all the learning issues that we see with so many young people, there's still a mass amount of young people that read books, have access to all the same things, and they simply make a better decision. And when they make a better decision, suddenly that thing can't manipulate them. So it's like you take a kid to a store and it's like they have all the options in the world. They have all their money. There could be a kid that goes in and spends every fucking penny he has on everything he can get in the store. Where another kid walks in and he says, you know what? I don't think I need all this stuff. And it'd probably be good to have money for later. I'll get like one thing. And it's still on him. The store is not manipulating him unless his choices open the door to become manipulated. And so it's still on him. So I still say, when I deal with people on here about gaming and they're making really poor choices for how they approach anything or talk to me about the game or join the game or they're careless, I'm like, dude, that's all on them. They're being stupid. This is not Monopoly. I'm not running an MMO. They know it's a mind game. They know all these concepts. There's no way they don't know it before they interact with you. So it's on them. Have they made a choice to ignore these realities when they come to talk to you? Yeah. And some people are out here actually trying to make you look bad in minor ways. They think it's going to be a bigger issue. It's like, just say that guy, there is a chance that we had that talk where there was no game plan, and he came on the chat in public and said, well, I hate to call you out, but we haven't made a thing. But his intention is to make me look like I planned a game and I've been half-assed. There are some people out here that are actually like that. Now, since they don't know YouTube and they don't know how this works, the effectiveness of their comments or what they're doing is nothing. It's absolutely zero. It means nothing. It just means they're fucking not that bright to begin with. But are they trying to make you look stupid? There's lots of people out here where their intent is really just to make you look dumb, look bad. Right? So it's and if they're not that bright, their attempt at it can confuse you because you won't even know. You wouldn't even know, like, because it hasn't been effective. It doesn't make you look bad. It's just that person doesn't realize it hasn't worked. Like, they just have no fucking clue. They're out to lunch. They don't know how YouTube works. They don't know how none of this works. And they've taken their shot. They think maybe they've had more of effect than they did, and they've affected nothing. Lots of really fucking unbright guys in the hobby, especially online. And do I know if Resnet was a young guy? I don't know. He's talking about older games with me. So most likely he was a guy that was actually in his 30s or 40s. So the chance that Resnet was like 15, probably not. Probably a grown man. But you get a lot of these insecure older guys that are they're not that bright. It's like certain YouTubers out there. It's like I heard a stream today where the guys are all acting like they're better than everybody else. And then at one point they go on, man, these guys over here, they're elitist. They all think they're better. It's right in the middle of them acting like they're all better than everybody else. It's around the hobby. I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. Yeah, fucking people are fucking antisocial, weird, and backwards, and they can't see their own issues, and they can't self-reflect, and they're fucking completely blind. Anyway, there you go. Here you go, my dude. Are we ready? Are we ready? Have you done the Temple of Elemental Evil there, Black Rose? Have you actually played it or ran it? I don't think you ran it. I think we talked about this before. Have you played it? How much do you know about it? Do tell me. I'm nosy. I'll give you a minute to respond before I dig in on this thing. I'm nosy. Since no one else is saying much, I know people are just, a lot of people are going to be here to listen. Fair enough. You talk. I'll let you talk for a second. I'm checking the side thing. Just, I know you got the kids there, but no, never did either. Okay, well, good. Let me educate you. The temple, and we are beginning, the Temple of Elemental Evil Influences and Birth. The Greyhawk campaign roots. The biggest influence was the home campaign of Gary Gygax. The temple grew from material associated with Gygax's Greyhawk campaign and reflected the style of play common in the earliest years of Dungeons and Dragons. It was also a product. Okay. You know what? I'll give you a minute. I don't want you to miss any of this fluff. I'll give you a moment. I hope everyone else is ready who's ever listening in. I hope we're, because this is going to be good fluff. Good fluff, and then I'm going to get into all the details. If you don't know about the Temple of Elemental Evil or the modules related to this, T1 to T4, and how that all went, I'm going to give you the back history to this, the fluff, and then we're going to go into details about what it is. All right, so if you've only heard vague things about Hamlet and how it all works, this is going to clear the air for you. You're not going to be confused about this anymore at the end of the stream. Also, I have advice for people that run it and how you can. It's like a two-way street. It's advice for the people that run it and how they can advise their players. So it's like a 2-in-1 package, right? It's for playing it and for running it at the same time. It's advice a DM could give over to their players. You don't want to tell your players how to play anything, but giving them a heads up, putting seeds in their heads about how they might want to approach this can be very important. And they're not going to try to fly by important things or miss out on opportunities, right? There's a lot to this. A lot of freedom too. In that way, it can feel a bit sandboxy, where there's a lot of freedom. But like anything else, it's still pre-made material. So as free as it is, you still got to direct yourself as players. You got to sort of play into it, right? You got to play into the options. But just you can understand there's more options than just going to a fucking dungeon. There's a lot to pick at here. But you got to aim at it. You can't just be trying to play the whole thing looking for things that might not even exist. So you sort of got to take the hints from NPCs. You got to take direction and actually dig into what you hear about instead of being people that go, well, I'll ignore all that stuff and we'll go over here. Well, the DM will have nothing over there for you, right? So you got to take, you can go over and ask people, just take all the hints, boom. I hope you're not rewatching too much. We're only 2 seconds in, so. Okay, let's do a little start over again. The Temple of Elemental Evil Influences and Birth. The Greyhawk campaign roots. The biggest influence was the home campaign of Gary Gygax. The temple grew from material associated with Gygax's Greyhawk campaign and reflected the style of play common in the earliest years of Dungeons and Dragons. It was also a product of the broader design culture established by both Gygax and Dave Arneson. Their campaigns helped shape many of the concepts that would define old school play. exploration over story, dangerous environments, factions with competing goals, player driven problem solving, wilderness expeditions, large interconnected adventure sites. The temple became one of the most famous examples of these ideas in practice. The classic dungeon crawl philosophy. The adventure was heavily influenced by the earliest style of play. The goal was not to guide players through a predetermined story. There's some of that. Instead, players were expected to explore, investigate, negotiate, fight when necessary, retreat when necessary, return better prepared. The temple was designed as a location to interact with rather than a narrative to complete. This adventure as place philosophy became a defining feature of old school gaming. Sword and sorcery influences. Like much of early D&D, the adventure draws heavily from sword and sorcery fiction. Influences can be seen from authors such as Robert E. Howard, Fritz Leiber, Michael Moorcock. The temple's villains are not idealistic enemies trying to reshape society. They are cultists, corrupt priests, mercenaries, monsters, power seeking conspirators. The atmosphere is one of hidden corruption, ancient evil, and dangerous ambition lurking beneath civilization. Pulp adventure and secret cults. Another major influence was classic pulp adventure fiction. Stories involving secret societies, hidden cults, ancient ruins, forbidden knowledge, dark religious orders were common throughout pulp literature. The temple embraces these ideas completely. Rather than uncovering a single grand narrative, players gradually discover that multiple factions, agents, and cults are operating behind the temple's apparent ruin. The rise of elemental evil. One of the adventure's most distinctive features was its focus on elemental power. Rather than centering on a single villain type, the temple organized much of its structure around earth, air, fire, water. This gave the adventure a unique identity that helped distinguish it from many early dungeon crawls. The concept was also influenced by AD&D's expanding cosmology. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, TSR material increasingly explored elemental planes, cosmic forces, powerful supernatural entities. The temple reflected this growing interest in the elemental side of the AD&D universe. The original Temple War. An important part of the adventurer's background is that the temple had already risen and fallen before the players arrived. According to the setting's history, the temple once became a major threat. Forces of good united against it. The temple was defeated. The site was abandoned and left in ruins. The adventure begins years later when signs emerge that evil is returning. This gives the campaign its distinctive feeling of investigating and confronting an ancient threat that was never completely destroyed. The village of Hamlet. The story of the temple began publicly with the release of the village of Hamlet in 1979. Hamlet served as a home base and an information hub, a source of rumors, a place filled with hidden dangers and secret agents, also intended to connect to a future temple campaign. Hamlet existed on its own for years because many players experienced Hamlet as a complete adventure long before the full temple was ever published. Because of this, Hamlet became one of the most famous villages in D&D history. Years of delay. Gygax originally intended to publish the complete temple adventure much sooner. However, TSR was growing rapidly during this period. His responsibilities expanded to include company management, new game projects, product development, industry appearances. As a result, the temple remained unfinished for years. The delay became legendary amongst players, and anticipation steadily grew throughout the early 1980s. The final release, the complete adventure, finally appeared in 1985 as The Temple of Elemental Evil. Although usually associated with Gygax, the final published version also involved contributions from Frank Metzner, who helped develop and complete material for the publication. The finished adventure combined the Village of Hamlet, wilderness exploration, numerous factions, the ruined temple itself, extensive dungeon complexes, political intrigue, and cult activity. At the time, it was one of the largest and most ambitious AD&D adventures ever released. So, most people don't realize that the Hamlet was released long before. I'll get more in detail a little bit about that. But before the Temple of Elemental Evil even existed, the Village of Hamlet and adventuring in it using that material happened for years before the Temple of Elemental Evil was actually completed and put out to the public. A near mega dungeon. Many historians of the hobby view the Temple of Elemental Evil as one of AD&D's closest approaches to a true mega dungeon campaign. While not as vast as legendary locations such as Castle Greyhawk or Blackmoor, it was significantly larger than most published adventures of its era. Players could spend months exploring the village, surrounding wilderness, the temple, the dungeon levels beneath it. This scope helped establish it as one of the defining campaign adventures of the AD&D era. Okay, why it matters. The Temple of Elemental Evil helped define what many players think of when they imagine classic AD&D campaigns. A frontier village, a dangerous wilderness, hidden factions, secret cults, a sprawling dungeon, exploration-driven play, ancient evil returning from the past. More than 40 years later, it remains one of the most influential adventure modules ever published and one of the clearest examples of old-school D&D style of play. So there's your opening fluff, but and so that's a little bit of background. The influence, how it came to be, there was a delay on it. It comes from mostly a lot of Gary Gygax's work, but Frank Metzner actually stepped in because it took so long to actually help complete the entire thing. They start off where they're putting it out, and the idea is to rapidly put out until you get to the Temple of Elemental Evil. But because they only put a Hamlet right away, a lot of people played with the Village of Hamlet and around the Village of Hamlet, and that got developed. A lot of ideas for the Village of Hamlet exist because they just had years of people playing it, developing it, getting deeper into it. And because of that, there's almost like an adventure in itself. Put it this way. If you're going to play the T1 to T4, get ready to be doing it for a long time. Like, just understand it's not going to be, in most cases, a quick run-through module. What is the Temple of Elemental Evil? The Temple of Elemental Evil is one of the most famous adventure modules, as I said already, ever published. Released in 1985 as the Temple of Elemental Evil, it combined earlier materials from the Village of Hamlet with a much larger campaign centered around the return of a defeated evil. Many players consider it one of the defining adventures of the first edition AD&D era and one of the clearest examples of what classic D&D campaigns look like during the hobby's early years. An unusual publication history. So we talked about this. Part of what makes the adventure unique is how it was published. The story began with the release of the Village of Hamlet, like I said, in 1979. The Temple of Elemental Evil doesn't come out until around 84, going into 85, right? So it took like almost like 6 years before you actually see the thing get completed. T4 actually hits the market. The basic premise, the adventure takes place in the world of Greyhawk. Years before the campaign begins, a powerful evil cult established a stronghold known as the Temple of Elemental Evil. The temple became a major threat to the surrounding lands before eventually being defeated by an alliance of good forces. The temple fell. The cult was scattered. The threat appeared to be over. However, rumors began to spread that something is happening around the old ruins. Strange events are occurring. Dark forces seem to be gathering once again. The players arrive as signs of the temple's return begin to emerge. So it's I want people to understand that it's not like this is a fucking evil place. It's already established. And you got to go deal with it. No, it's like a ruined area. It's like a ruined dungeon type of area, like and sizable to the point of close to a mega dungeon. But it's a place that has already went up, been defeated. But hey, you know, they say it's like the end of that movie where you think the evil has been defeated, but then some character turns around. They're like, oh, they're still possessed by something. It's not gone. It's still here with us. The adventure structure, unlike many adventures that focus on a single location, the Temple of Elemental Evil is built around several interconnected parts, which includes Hamlet, the village of Nulb, N-U-L-B, the surrounding wilderness, and the temple ruin. The vast dungeon complex beneath the temple as well. Players gradually move between these locations while uncovering more information about the threat they face. The result feels more like a campaign setting packed into an adventure module than it is like a simple dungeon crawl. One of the first complete campaign experiences, part of the temple's reputation comes from how many styles of play it combines. Many early adventurers focus primarily on one element, a dungeon, a wilderness expedition, a specific mission, a dangerous location. The temple attempted to combine all of these. The village matters, the wilderness matters, NPC relationships matter. A lot of social interaction to be had here. The dungeon matters. This helps make the adventure feel larger and more alive than many modules that came before it. The central threat. The temple is home to forces devoted to elemental evil. Various groups within the temple are associated with powers connected to earth, air, fire, and water. However, the adventurer's evil is not simply about elemental magic. The elemental cults serve as part of a much larger supernatural threat operating behind the scenes. As players explore deeper into the campaign, they gradually uncover the darker forces influencing events around the temple. One of the most famous villains associated with the adventure is Zugmoy, whose connection to the temple became one of the most memorable pieces of D&D lore. A campaign of exploration and discovery. One reason the module became so popular is that it combines several different styles, like we talked about. Players may find themselves exploring ancient ruins, investigating mysteries, negotiating with NPCs, hunting for treasure, surviving dangerous expeditions, uncovering conspiracies, battling monsters, navigating faction politics. Because of this variety, different groups often remember different parts of the campaign. Some remember Hamlet, some remember Nob, some remember the dungeon levels, some remember the faction conflicts. Few groups experience the adventure in exactly the same way. Just depends on what you choose to really focus on and what happens. Character progression. The complete campaign was designed to support long-term play. Characters typically began at relatively low levels and gradually advance into mid-level range as they uncover more of the temple's secrets. This progression contributes to the feeling that players are participating in a major campaign rather than a short adventure. Why it became famous. The adventure gained a reputation for its scale. At the time of publication, it was one of the largest AD&D adventures available. Groups could spend months exploring its locations and uncovering its secrets. It also became famous for its detailed world building. Many NPCs have their own motivations. Locations often feel connected to a larger world rather than existing solely for combat encounters. This helped the adventure feel more alive than many dungeon-focused modules of its era. Its place in Greyhawk. The temple is closely tied to the Greyhawk setting. For many players, it serves as one of the most defining adventures of Greyhawk, alongside adventures such as Against the Giants, White Plume Mountains, The Tomb of Horrors. While those adventures are often remembered for their specific challenges or locations, the Temple of Elemental Evil is frequently remembered as a complete campaign experience. Themes of the adventure. Several themes appear throughout the campaign. Ancient evil returning, corruption hidden beneath the civilization, exploration of dangerous ruins, the temptation of power, the struggle between order and chaos, the consequences of past conflicts. The temple story is less about discovering a brand new threat and more about confronting an evil that was never fully destroyed. Why do people still talk about this? More than 4 decades after publication, the Temple of Elemental Evil remains one of the most discussed adventures in D&D history. Some people praise its scope, its atmosphere, its memorable locations, its faction play, its connection to Greyhawk. Others criticize its complexity, its length, its difficulty, and sometimes even its design. Regardless of opinion, few adventures have had greater influence on how people imagine classic AD&D campaigns. The Temple of Elemental Evil is a large-scale AD&D campaign that begins with rumors of a returning cult, expands into a sprawling exploration of villages, wilderness, factions, and dungeons, and ultimately reveals a much greater supernatural evil lurking beneath the ruins of one of Greyhawk's most infamous locations. So let's start with the plot. The next part I'm going to talk about is Hamlet, and then worth mentioning. And usually I would do this I wouldn't do worth mentioning until I got to advice, but when we're doing this module, it's the first time I'm doing a module. It's a big one. I want to go into Hamlet. Hamlet's really important. Hamlet there's so much gaming to be had. But once you're in the dungeon, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be its own thing. I have advice for that in the advice section. We'll get to that. But I'm going to cover Hamlet, and then I want to go into worth mentioning some other details I haven't mentioned, like the moat, stuff like that, right? Make sure people don't feel like I'm skipping over something. But remember, my focus is an overview of this whole thing. Now, my last bit is going to be advice about how to run this module and the type of ways like your players should be focused on coming at the whole thing, because there's so much here. So they think they're going on to an adventure where you go, you do the thing. Like you go from Hamlet to the temple, and that's it. It's not that. There's so much to interact with at the village itself. There's another darker village, Nub, which we talked about. There is forest exploration. So there's a lot to do before you bother going into the temple. Like lots. There's lots of people to talk to, lots of rumors, lots of treasure to get, ways to improve your characters even before you get to the temple. So if you don't want to rush into the temple at like level 1 and you want to try to, improve yourself, get your character maybe up a level or whatnot before you start, it's good to actually explore the early options and really get into what Hamlet is. Hamlet is a great thing. And it developed over time because it was first out. And it took forever to get the dungeon completed. The dungeon itself is criticized, but in a way, I think Gary never really did what he wanted to do with it because he got so busy. It was like a great plan. And he was a guy for developing dungeons. Like he was really good at it, but he was so busy with the company after he started that whole thing that by the time you get to a certain point, Frank Metzner steps in. And he had been bringing people in to do other work. He was too busy to do. He's running a company. You can't really play games as much when you run a company. Like there's so much to do with the company. And the idea that you can just go play games all day, even if it's the excuse that you're a game designer, it just goes away. That early part where they're making up what's going to become the company, making the game, working on things, that is establishing what D&D is. Like early Greyhawk and the Greyhawk dungeon, that's establishing the game they're going to keep selling to you in the future. So that made sense. And he had time. It was before they have a bigger company. He had time. So it made sense that he would put a lot of time to that and have fun. Trust me, he was a DM. He enjoyed it. Game design wasn't just game design to Gary. It was gaming. So he enjoyed it. They had a lot of fun. But you can't, it's hard to then commit to a dungeon or to something in the same way going forward. Because it's like after they start it and get it out of the box and get the company going, it's like, dude, Gary, you're the face. Like you're the face. Now people want to interview you. Now you're going out to the cons. Now like all the time you used to have is now gone. right? All the time he had was just wiped out. Now he has people talk about business all the time and making money, making money, making money. And I don't think they knew D&D was going to blow up. Like when they start the whole thing, I don't think Gary them just knew how big it was going to blow up, and then how much work does that mean for Gary? Well, if the company explodes, which it does, especially with AD&D 1E, your time to sit back and make another dungeon that's deep is extremely limited. And you're mentally going to be used up. Just fucking tired. You're doing business. You're doing interviews. You're taking care of things. You're doing all this. That's why eventually I think Gary just had no shame about bringing other people in. That's why you start getting, it goes from Gary taking a lot of responsibility outside of Dave Arneson. Gary did a lot of work, and it went from Gary to Mulvey, Frank Metzger, like just so many guys started being brought in to start doing this stuff. Now, don't get it wrong. I think Gary's a weird guy because in many ways, when it comes to D&D, the reason the design starts changing, it starts changing towards second edition, is in many ways, he's like a Vince McMahon who doesn't have the same amount of time to be Vince McMahon. Like Vince McMahon ran, say, wrestling for years in a specific way. Well, imagine if you run design and you do certain things a specific way, but then when your business blows up, that thing about you changes. Where, say, with a guy like Vince, the way he runs things never really changes, no matter how big he gets. Where for Gary, he has to start giving responsibility and things over to other people, where usually he would take the heat, right? So most design stuff you see coming out would be from him. At one point, it starts being passed off to other people. So that's over their history. So in 1979, the first module comes out piece of this whole thing. Hamlet was a great place to adventure. And then by 1985, by that year, you get finally the Temple of Elemental Evil with Frank Metzner doing a crap load of work on the whole thing. And was it as good as maybe the Greyhawk Dungeon? Probably not in many ways. That's why it was criticized. Some people love it. Some people criticize how harsh it was or what it was like. There was a sign that it was definitely letting you know that it wasn't all Gary that made that. Because Gary was so busy with TSR. Again, it's just the difference. Imagine, again, Vince McMahon, no matter how much the company blows up, he's still running the wrestling show. He's still deciding who goes out and does what. Where Gary, instead of, even though he's usually the man at a certain point in the company, designing stuff, putting stuff into it to work, he goes from that to the face of it, and those two things can't go together so well. Now he has to go out and do interviews. He has to go out and do all this stuff. He has to make sure their business is going. And he has a product that's blown up, right? But his early, and even getting other games out, that's another thing they started doing, because after he puts out even original D&D, he starts getting time just eating up on him. Just time. Time he doesn't, remember when they were first making D&D, he has all the time in the world to make sure they do a D&D right, make the Greyhawk, make the early dungeon stuff, just has the time for it. After things blow up, now the company's something. And once a company is established, other people are coming to him. We have games, we have this, and it's effective for him to actually look at that stuff and go, yeah, if we're a serious company, we got to put out other games. He has to start putting his hands on all kinds of different projects. So the idea that he could sit down like he did with the Dungeon with Greyhawk, it wasn't there. Which is a shame, because he was actually good at that part. So in a way, it's almost like, imagine if you had to take Vince right away from calling the shots on the show, because he was so busy doing interviews, say. Right? It'd be like separating the brains of the show away from the show, and then you get suddenly the wrestling becomes mediocre compared to what he was doing beforehand. It's sort of what happens at D&D. There is a bit of a mediocrity that you could say you feel it a bit, just a bit, right? Hit the company at a certain point. But guys brought in, we're all not mediocre. It's not that bad. Mold Bay was good. Frank Metzger was very fucking good. But it's a difference between being good. Frank Metzger, one of the best DMs to ever exist. But when it comes to game design and making something for people, Was that his gimmick? Or was that mainly Gary's? Right? Just because you're, in many aspects, you could be better at something, but what about the paying customer? What's going to be better for them? It's not always obvious what these things are. But the next, after I'm done this, we're going to jump into the meat. I'm going to cover the Hamlet. It's good to cover that because we cover some of the basics. And then we'll go into a worth mentioning area. And at the end, I'll give you my advice for how to run it and things you could, how you could advise your players to approach a game. Usually I do this different, but I've never really covered a module before. So because there's so much with the Temple of Elemental Evil, I want to cover I want to hit every area. So we got the fluff done. You know the backstory. It comes from like a sort of sorted sorcery type of background. You know, so you know the influences behind it. You have an idea of how long it took to get it all done, and that it wasn't all Gary that did it at the end. And there's a stretch, there's a period of time. And most people, they don't know the whole history, right? And you know it's all about not an evil that just exists. It's not like there's a temple out there that's evil and you got to go deal with this evil temple. It's a temple that already has a whole backstory. So before you ever run into the temple, it's just a ruins. It's almost like you missed out on the adventure some people think they're getting into. Like if you don't know much of a temple of evil, you think you're just going to join with some guys and maybe you'll be the good guys and go fight the evil temple of elemental evil. No, it's just ruins and the story that was already up, evil and good got together and destroyed it. It's just that suddenly you're going to start the game where it sounds like that the evil wasn't completely defeated. And so with all the rumors, it's going to tell you there is a threat. That's the idea. And you're going to go deal with the threat. But before you go deal with the threat, the cults, other things are going on, other ideas, other things you can do. And there's lots of it. But some people choose to pass some of these things up. They can deal with Hamlet. They can go over to Nub, which is like sort of like an evil place, an evil sort of village type of place where you meet some more twisted shit. But you just skip it. So did everybody have the same experience with this module, with the adventure and the dungeon crawl? No. Some people wouldn't deal with the factions that much. Some people would focus deeply on dealing with the factions. Some people would skip Nob. Some people wouldn't. Some people would explore Hamlet before going off to the temple. Some people really didn't, right? Some people would ignore certain elements of like exploring the forest, exploration. Like they either you play into it or you ignore it. It's really up to you because you got to go around talking to people. And when you're finding stuff out, you got to decide how much you want to dig into what you're being told. And then you got to decide if you're even out asking questions before you hear the slightest rumor and go, we're going. And most DMs would never force you to play the game in a certain way. So there's all these options. But hey, if the players don't bother focusing on this, the players are going to go off and do this. Okay, sure, yeah. You could potentially level up before getting to the dungeon. But if you want to rush there, okay, no, you don't have to. All right. I actually think it's okay. I don't mind the Temple of Elemental Evil. I think it's interesting, though there is a lot of critique with the dungeon. I got to warn people, it's very challenging. My advice at the end, I don't want to say too much right now because I want to save some for the advice part. The advice is how you should deal with it so you can have a good experience with it. Or if you go in mentally as a player, approaching the game in certain ways, you'll enjoy it more. If you go in as a player and going at this in other ways, it can really, you can cramp your stuff, like what you want to experience. And there's so much to it that, is it really worth exploring everything? I personally say it is. I mean, to me, I would tell a player, if you want to enjoy this, getting the most out of it is necessary. And if you want to get the most out of it, I have advice for how you can achieve that, how you can make sure your group doesn't miss out on that, which is not advice for you players as much as advice for your DM, for a DM to give the players so they're not missing out on opportunities. Okay, here we go. Hamlet, the village that became a D&D classic. When people talk about the Temple of Elemental Evil, they often focus on the temple itself. Ironically, one of the most influential parts of the entire campaign is a small village where the adventure begins, Hamlet. Over the years, Hamlet became so popular that many DMs used the village even when they had no intention of running the temple campaign, because it did exist for a long time before it. So, it's so much to it. What is Hamlet? Hamlet is a small rural settlement located on the edge of civilization, civilized territory in the Greyhawk setting. At first glance, it appears ordinary. It has farmers, merchants, craftsmen, travelers, local authorities. The village seems peaceful and prosperous. However, beneath that normal appearance are lingering tensions, unanswered questions, and connections to events occurring beyond the village itself. This combination of familiar, uncertainty helped make Hamlet memorable. A starting point for adventurers. One of the original purposes of Hamlet was to provide a place where adventurers could begin their careers. It was not designed as a tutorial in the modern sense. Instead, it offered opportunities to learn the fundamentals of old school adventuring through play. Characters could gather rumors, investigate local concerns, explore nearby dangers, meet important NPCs, prepare for a larger threat. In many ways, or you might want to say threats, in many ways, Hamlet served as an introduction to how classic AD&D campaigns operated. The frontier feeling. One of Hamlet's greatest strengths is its atmosphere. It feels like a place standing between safety and danger. Civilization exists, law exists, commerce exists, yet, that's a misspelling on my end, yet beyond the village are wilderness areas, ruins, monsters, and threats that have not been fully defeated. The village acts as a bridge between the known world and the unknown. Many later D&D settlements would adopt this same design philosophy. More than a supply stop, many early adventure villages existed mainly to provide equipment, healing, rumors. Hamlet goes much further. The inhabitants have personalities, relationships, and motivations. The village encourages players to ask questions, investigate people, build relationships, become involved in local affairs. As a result, players often remember the people they met there long after the campaign ended. Why the NPC stood out. Part of Hamlet's reputation comes from how its inhabitants were presented. And many early adventure settlements were little more than a list of shops and services. Hamlet encouraged players to pay attention to individuals. Players often found themselves wondering, who can be trusted? Who knows more than they admit? Who is connected to recent events? Who may have hidden motives? I actually learned a lot from Hamlet, right? To make sure that you never make the places you're putting your player characters in generic. Like bringing it to making sure every village you're putting has something, relationships, people, important people, connections. It really matters. Small things really matter. And the Hamlet really makes that real. So don't make your cities or towns or anywhere you're putting players just a generic place for them to do generic things. Several residents possess secrets or connections that may not immediately be obvious. This uncertainty creates much of the village's atmosphere and encourages investigation. Byrne and Rufus. Among Hamlet's most memorable figures are Byrne and Rufus. Their influential local leaders help maintain order and stability within the region, or these influential local leaders. Their presence helps make Hamlet feel like a functioning community rather than a collection of buildings waiting for adventurers to arrive. Many players still remember them decades after first visiting the village. The moat house. No discussion of Hamlet is complete without mentioning the moat house. Located outside of the village, the ruined moat house is one of the most famous low-level adventure locations in D&D history. For many groups, it serves as the first major expedition. The site provides exploration, combat, investigation, clues about larger threats. The moat house acts as a stepping stone between village life and the much greater dangers associated with the Temple of Elemental Evil. Many players remember the moat house almost as vividly as Hamlet itself. The inn became legendary, the Inn of the Welcome Wench, and its innkeeper, Osir Gundigoot, whatever, however you want to say his name, right? One of the most famous locations in Hamlet is the inn. So let me mention the name again, because they tried to rename it recently, change the name, because they thought it offended people. The Inn of the Welcome Wench. Modern day sensibilities are stupid. Okay. Like many classic fantasy inns, it serves as a meeting place for adventurers, merchants, travelers, and locals. What made it memorable was not simply its existence, but how often important interactions began there. Many campaigns effectively started around the table inside a Hamlet's inn before moving into the wider world. So when you hear about the adventure starting at the inn with people sitting around the table, it's definitely one of the first real encounters with that is here for a lot of people. For countless players, it became one of the most recognizable taverns in D&D history. I still can't believe the name bothered people so much. They were redoing some of the stuff. They actually renamed it. Again, it's the Inn of the Welcome Wench. Why DMs borrowed Hamlet. Every DM never ran the Temple of Elemental Evil frequently borrowed Hamlet. Or even DMs who never ran the Temple of Elemental Evil frequently borrowed Hamlet. The village was easy to place into almost any fantasy world. A DM could use it as a starting town, a frontier settlement, a home base, a source of rumors, a recurring campaign location. Because it was detailed without being overwhelming, it became one of the most reusable settlements TSR ever published. Ahead of its time, today detailed villages are common. At the time, many settlements and published adventures received only a bit of attention. Hamlet provided numerous NPCs, distinct locations, local politics, adventure hooks, ongoing mysteries. This level of detail helped establish a standard that many later adventure locations would follow. Basically, in many ways, it's imagine you built a town off a sandbox and you put the details out there into an adventure, like into a module. So some people will say there's a bit of a sandbox gimmick going on with this. It's not the sandbox in the element that you're putting in, but the way this was developed was by sandboxing. So the sandbox video I did will tell you how this got created. So just the designers doing a sandbox and then giving you everything. Imagine you did a sandbox with hooks and you have players that were helping you design a product. And so players purposely went around, instead of avoiding what you might have put in there for hooks, and purposely going at it to help you develop the hooks. That doesn't happen usually at your free table. Players do what they want in the sandbox. But imagine if you're a group of designers and the people are purposely going to go after your hooks on purpose. Well, now you get to take all the hook ideas that you have. Instead of having people only go after 2%, you have people going after everything. And imagine replaying it on purpose to keep going after hooks. Well, that's what happened with Hamlet. So Hamlet isn't a sandbox in itself, but it's what if you did a sandbox and you had your players explore every possible thing you put in there, even stuff you improvised, you detail it out, you get the module. You get Hamlet. That's why Hamlet is so detailed, because unlike other towns or villages that might be made for a single adventure, Hamlet is being made for a lot of play because the Temple of Elemental Evil won't be out for a bit. And they want to do a little bit more work on this the same way. And this was a Gary thing. This is Gary sandboxing early on, and you getting a sandbox sort of take, but it's all the work is done. So it's an overkill work on this village, right? The blueprint for future villages. So when I'm explaining this, it should sound exactly like the sandbox I described to you. This is designers sandboxing, but having players in a unique way purposely go at everything. So if you ever play in a sandbox and want to help your game master really flesh out a place that they're in, you can purposely try to go after every hook that's even hinted to you instead of avoiding them. Right? That's up to you. So some players, in this case, if you like purposely, instead of doing what you freely want to do, you're trying to help develop what the game master has done. The blueprint for future villages. Many elements that later became common in D&D settlements can be seen in Hamlet. The village combines useful services, interesting NPCs, local mysteries, political tensions, adventure hooks. Rather than existing solely to support the dungeon, the village feels like a place that would continue to exist even if adventurers never arrived. The design philosophy influenced countless later products. Why players remember this? Many famous D&D locations are remembered because they contain powerful monsters, deadly traps, epic battles. Hamlet is remembered for a different reason. Players lived there. They returned there. They learned about its people. They uncovered its secrets. They made allies there. They made enemies there. The village became familiar. That familiar feeling made players care about what happened to it. Remember how I said when you develop your character, you start caring about the character because they become somebody. And it makes your experience with the character deeper than it just being Tom the cleric. Once you develop a personality with your cleric, you'll care. What happened with people loving Hamlet is this: it got developed. It became a living place. And what happens instinctively, people care more about this place as they discovered secrets, explore, get used to it. A lot of people did. Hamlet's legacy. Today, Hamlet remains one of the most iconic settlements in Dungeons & Dragons history. Its influence can be seen in countless fantasy villages that follow it. For many players, it represents the ideal adventuring home base, safe but not completely safe, welcoming but not completely trustworthy, small enough to understand, large enough to support adventure. More than 40 years after its publication, Hamlet remains one of the best examples of how a simple village can become one of the most memorable locations in an entire campaign and one of the most influential home bases ever created for D&D. All right, here we're getting to the worth mentioning area, so we can make sure I'm not missing too much. Zuckmoid, the hidden power behind the temple. One of the most important names associated with the Temple of Elemental Evil is Zuckmoid, the demon queen of fungi. While many people remember the adventure for its elemental cults, the temple's evil ultimately extends beyond the simple elemental worship. In fact, one of the surprises of the campaign is that what initially appears to be a story about a rival elemental cult gradually reveals as much more as a complicated supernatural threat operating behind the scenes. So even though it seems like it's just these cults having these issues, there's a bigger story behind even that. Zuckmoid is a powerful demon lord associated with fungi. Corruption, decay, manipulation. Her influence is tied directly to the temple's history and helps explain why the danger facing the region is greater than a collection of cultists occupying an old ruin. For many D&D fans, the temple became the adventure most closely associated with Zuckmoid, just as Ravenloft became associated with Strahd. Today, she remains as one of the Greyhawk's most recognizable villains. The moat house, as we talked about. Before adventurers ever reach the temple itself, many groups first encounter danger at the moat house. Located near Hamlet, the ruined structure serves as an early adventure site and introduction to many of the themes found later in the campaign. The moat house provides exploration, investigation, combat, and like I said, clues about a larger threat or threats. What makes it memorable is that it does more than provide monsters to fight. It introduces players to the idea that evil influences are still active in the region despite the temple's apparent defeat years earlier. For many groups, the moat house effectively served as their first real taste of old school AD&D adventuring. Players learned lessons about caution, exploration, resource management, investigation, retreat when necessary. Many old school players remember the moat house as one of the best introductory adventure locations ever written for AD&D. In some groups, the moat house is remembered more vividly than parts of the temple itself. Nulb, N-U-L-B, the village on the wrong side of the story. If Hamlet represents hope, stability, and civilization, Nulb represents the opposite. Located much closer to the temple, Nulb is a settlement with a far darker reputation. Visitors quickly discover a community filled with criminals, smugglers, opportunists, and unsavory merchants, individuals connected to the temple's influence. The atmosphere is very different from Hamlet. Players are less likely to find trustworthy allies and more likely to encounter people pursuing their own interest. In many ways, Nulb acts as a dark reflection of Hamlet. Where Hamlet demonstrates what the region looks like when order is maintained, Nulb demonstrates what happens when corruption, greed, and the temple's influences take root. For many DMs, Nulb is one of the most memorable examples of a morally questionable frontier settlement in early D&D. T1 versus T1 to T4. Let me be clear with this. A point that sometimes confuses newer fans is the difference between the Village of Hamlet and the Temple of Elemental Evil. T1, the Village of Hamlet, the Village of Hamlet was originally published as a standalone adventure, right? Just to be clear. It focused on Hamlet, the surrounding area, the moat house, early investigations into lingering evil activities. At the time, the larger temple adventure had not yet been published. As a result, many groups played Hamlet entirely on its own. Players would then spend years wondering what the complete temple adventure would eventually become. Now, T1 to T4, the Temple of Elemental Evil. The Temple of Elemental Evil in 1985. 6 years later, TSR finally released its Temple of Elemental Evil. This product incorporated the original T1 material while greatly expanding the campaign. The new material added Nulb, the additional wilderness areas, temple ruins, extensive dungeon complexes, larger faction conflicts, the campaign's deeper mysteries, because T1 to T4, or T1 to 4, includes the original Hamlet material. Most groups only needed the later release to experience the full campaign. What had originally been relatively contained adventure became a massive campaign capable of supporting months of play. Both versions matter. An interesting result of this publication history is that Hamlet developed its own reputation separate from the temple. Some players love Hamlet, the moat house, the low-level adventuring experience. Others primarily remember the temple itself, the faction conflicts, the deeper dungeon levels, the larger Greyhawk lore. Because of this, discussions about the Temple of Elemental Evil often involve people remembering very different parts of the overall campaign. When people remember the Temple of Elemental Evil, they are often remembering several different experiences at once. Some remember life in Hamlet. Some remember their first expedition into the moat house. Some remember navigating the dangers of Nulb. Others remember uncovering darker forces operating behind the elemental cults. Together, these elements help transform what could have been a simple dungeon crawl into one of the most influential and enduring campaigns in the history of Dungeons and Dragons. As far as modules go, there is not too much more historical than this one. I personally got to play it, right? And I felt like I'm not a big module guy. I've never ran modules in my life. People know this. I tell them all the time about my history with the lack of running modules. But if I felt there was one module worth covering, one to promote to people that I think is worth running, if you want to run a module or worth playing, I'd have to say this is the one for me. Now, I do have the advice coming up, but this is the meat. This is the special bit right here. So I saved this on purpose. That is an overview of the Temple of Elemental Evil. I don't know, Black Rose, how's it been so far? Yeah, it's worth it. It's a long campaign. There's so much to it. There's so much meat on the bone. It's developed from a sandbox, so it's like Mysteria in that way. It's unlike other modules that are just made without a lot of game design or a game testing. This one you can feel that you spent time. This is made. This is more of a gamey game, right? Learn a lot of cool stuff, and I enjoyed listening in. Well, I hope so. I hope it all makes sense because people hear vague stories about this being cool. They hear the temple is this dungeon. Like, what does it mean? They picture stuff. Their imagination goes. And I want them to sort of get a real idea of what this is, right? I just want people to be so clear on what it is and to know there's so much to it. Like, there's Hamlet. It really is worth exploring Hamlet. Like, it's not just a starting town if you start playing the game. It's not just simple that. There's a whole history to it. And it was, as they said, like an adventure alone by itself, a standalone adventure with the moat host. So you get the moat host. The village is really fucking neat for the people you meet there. Memorable NPCs, stuff worth digging into, getting to know the place, getting to experience people. And there's so much mystery to it. But, and so you can do a ton of stuff in Hamlet before you ever go to the temple. But you can go to the Nulb too. I wanted people to know about the evil place where the smugglers are, the other village. And there's a whole forest section, like forest exploration is a big gimmick here, right? Wilderness exploration, if you might want to put it that way. So there's adventuring. There's the moat host low level. There's fucking this, and this is a deep village. A lot of background to it, worth talking to everyone, finding out what it's about, who's who. And I don't want to give too much away. People might say, man, he's not saying everything. That's, folks, I want to be clear. That is on purpose. I don't want to give the whole fucking thing away, right? I want people to go play it. If I tell you every single detail, it's just mentioning, there's some things I just felt like I had to, especially if people that love the Temple of Elemental Evil stuff come by. I think they curse me out for not mentioning certain details, but to tell you everything is to tell you not to bother going to play it. At a certain point, there has to be some mystery. And I don't want people coming here that don't know that much about it and telling them every fucking little detail about the entire thing. I want details to be a bit mystery, so it's here's enough to promote it, explain clearly what it is in many ways, so you're not confused, right? Take the confusion away, give you the meat on the bone, give you all the sort of open details that will make it interesting, stuff that is worth mentioning, stuff that fans of this would want me to mention, and then go into the advice at the end, right? To not mention Hamlet separate from the Temple of Elemental Evil is not to acknowledge how Hamlet itself was a sort of separate part, like it's own standalone thing for a long time, so it's worth mentioning on its own. And give me the full background. How did it come to be? Why was there an extension between? Was it all Gary who made the actual dungeon at the end? No, Frank Metzner had a lot of say or a lot of effect on design by the end for the dungeon, and the dungeon gets a little critique. Like it's considered really hard, but that's more what Frank Metzner was known for. So it's not surprised that it was really grindy. Frank Metzner was a really grindy DM. Like it's exactly what you would expect from a DM like him doing a lot of work on the Temple of Elemental Evil. And why didn't Gary do that much work on it? Because TSR became so big and he was the face. And unlike a guy like I was saying with Vince could keep being the face of his company while still doing the work. Gary had to separate himself from the sitting down playing the game all the time to design it and had to go be the face. So his work couldn't be in combination with his interviews, talks, going to meet people, do business. And so he had to step away, and it tires him out. He's no other guy. So he's using up tons of energy to go around doing all this stuff, and he can't keep just sitting down and playing games with people all day to develop the stuff that you see going forward. Right? That's why Mulvey had a lot to say, Frank Metzner had a lot to say, because he had to let people, give people authority and let people take over some areas. He had to, had no choice. All right. But Hamlet is a great example of the sandboxing gimmick. I wanted to introduce you guys to Hamlet because I tell you about sandboxing and how it works. But here's an example of Mysteria. The reason I told you about sandboxing in that video close to Mysteria coming out, Mysteria setting is it's built off the sandbox. It is a setting built gradually, not all at once, like say Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms, right? It's a gradual build. Hamlet is something before they put it out to you is a gradual built village. It's even more developed through gameplay and design like that. More sandboxing before you get the updates, right? So there's a lot of sandboxing, and when you sandbox, you just keep finding ideas, and it's a unique sandbox experience. It's like imagine you get your players to actually want to play to your hooks on purpose. That's what Hamlet is. Like if you just have players that wanted to play to your stuff instead of just playing on what they want to do, and they purposely look for your hooks. Look, a lot of DMs out there would love for their players to do that. So imagine you come up with 7 hooks, and players, instead of going off to do their own thing, purposely went to look for them. And every idea that you had, they simply played it out. That's what Hamlet is. Hamlet is an example of having players look at a DM's hooks, go into it, and play out every hook for them, right? Okay. Well, this is going to be the main part beyond selling it all to you. So I hope you guys enjoy. Here it is. How to run the Temple of Elemental Evil. One of the biggest mistakes a DM can make with the Temple of Elemental Evil is treating it like a modern adventure path. It isn't. The temple works best when run as a living environment that reacts to the players rather than a story that unfolds in a specific order. So this is where look, there's a bit of railroad where you got to go to the temple at one point. That's going to be usually the aim, unless you want to do the motos, right? But for the most part, the freedom to skip a lot of the hooks here is up to you. So it's sandboxy in that way. There's enough to give a bit of that freedom. Don't rush the players to the temple. So don't rush the players to the temple. Many new DMs see the title and assume temple is the destination players should reach as quickly as possible. Resist that temptation. The village of Hamlet is not merely an introduction. It is part of the campaign. Let players meet villagers, gather rumors, investigate suspicious NPCs, make allies, make enemies. The more attached they become to Hamlet, the more meaningful the temple becomes later. So let the village, it's developed already, but let them meet that development. Let them develop the village like a character to them. That means push them towards wanting to talk. It doesn't mean you got to force anything, but don't just get lazy. Don't worry about them running to the temple. Let them connect with the village. Don't throw that away, because that's an important experience for the players. They'll enjoy it. It's a promise thing, right? Treat Hamlet as a living village. The village is full of personality, secrets, and conflicting interests. Avoid presenting NPCs as quest dispensers. Instead, run them as people with motivations. Some are helpful, some suspicious, some hiding information. Some are actively connected to the forces of evil. Players should feel like they are exploring a real community rather than checking boxes on a quest list. Let the NPCs be who they are. Run them for who they are. Don't run them like they got to give specific information to get players out to the motos to get this. Just talk as who, like, you'll have the information you need. Just talk as the NPCs. Say what they would say. Now, if the players want to ask them questions and get good information from them, fair enough. But some NPCs might not want to tell them stuff. So make it very challenging. Hide information. play who they are and don't worry if players didn't get appropriate or certain information from them. Right? Let them just be. Use Nalb as Hamlet's dark reflection. One of the most memorable locations in the campaign is the village of Halb, where Hamlet feels relatively civilized and hopeful. Nalb feels corrupt, dangerous, and morally compromised. It is filled with criminals, opportunists, cult sympathizers, informants, unsavory merchants. Meaning, what I would say is the best way to express this is in Hamlet, the place is clean, right? The location looks clean. People are walking around. People are nice. When you get to Nalb, Nalb is garbage. People don't care. People are fighting. Show a bit of violence. Show the unsavory side. Make it paint it up in the description of the places they're walking in, what they see, how it feels, how people are looking at them, how fights might be happening, people screaming. So presentation is really important. Make sure players immediately feel the difference when they arrive. Noble should communicate that they are moving closer to the heart of the temple's influence. So that's what I mean. You want to first make sure you're presenting Hamel as a nice place with people walking around, order, people not screaming, people not fighting. So when they get to Nob, you can show them the contrast. The fighting, the uncaring, the unsavory people, the actions, garbage not cleaned up. Like, presentation is important, so make sure you're presenting both. And point out small things, like seed the mind with, this place is really well kept. It looks like a nice town. Like, there's no garbage, nothing on the ground. People aren't screaming. Like, you make sure to put these seeds in the mind of your players early when they're in Hamlet, so when they get to know, you can then go, here's the contrast, right? Let players be cautious. Many modern adventures assume heroes charge directly towards danger. The temple rewards caution. Encourage players to scout, gather information, retreat when necessary, negotiate when possible, avoid a lot of combat, think before fighting. Remember, avoid a lot of early combat. Old school play often treats information as valuable as treasure. Players who gather intelligence should gain real advantages, meaning as long as players are active doing something, don't pretend in your head that the game is being slow. If they're talking, going to gather information, I mean, they could go running into the temple, but don't rush something when there's activity. When the players stop playing, you want to move the game ahead to get them going, of course, right? But when the players are playing and talking, interacting, deciding things, when you hear that, that's playing the game. Don't get in the way of that, right? Like, definitely hint if they're talking for too long. Are you guys going to actually move out and do something soon? Ask a question like that so they get the hint that there's, put the seed in there to get them moving. Yeah, okay, we'll get this guy to go do this. Okay, right? But let them slow play into this. It's not meant to be rushed through. And it is going to help them to know stuff before they go in. And that cautiousness, even in areas, see, sometimes DMs get confused. Sometimes you know so much about what's going on next, and you might hear cautious playing, you're like, that's so unnecessary. They don't have to do that here. But guess what? It doesn't matter. They will have to be cautious later. So don't push back against cautiousness, or in areas where they should be more cautious, they won't be. It's not like they know what you know, right? So if they're cautious here, but not much happens, fine. At least they're being cautious. So when caution counts, they'll be in that mindset. Run cults like factions. Run the cults like factions. One of the greatest strengths of the adventure is that the enemies are not a unified army. The various cults are groups, and groups have rivalries, competing goals, distrust, eternal conflict. Do not play them as perfectly organized villains. Smart players should be able to exploit rivalries, manipulate factions, make temporary alliances, turn enemies against one another. Many memorable temple campaigns are won through politics as much as combat. So imagine if, no matter how evil these guys are, you are going to you agree to actually help one group out, so they can actually help you get through the parts of the temple where it's really hard. They can also take down people that might be a threat to you or things that might be a threat to you. Almost use like cannon fodder to a degree. But you again, this is where you want to hint to your players or have some NPC hint, like have people they're talking to hint that yeah, these guys really don't like each other. Like, man, you could really turn those two groups on each other, no problem. Like, plant seeds in the minds of your players so they understand these factions have issues. And then when they talk to the factions, if they do talk, and you hope they do, opportunities, like, because it might be like, are you with them or not? So the faction actually asks, and like, well, no, we're not with anybody. Oh, okay, that's a talking point. At least right away, the players know enemies aren't just going to initially attack. Talking means they can manipulate, like I'm saying here, they could take advantage. They could take advantage of politics. Hey, I'll side with you. What could we do for you that would help you? And make sure the other guys don't get ahead so you can help us. How can we help you so you can help us? Because if the groups really feel that you can be effective for them, they might actually help you. But then you got to understand they're evil, right? You want to make sure your deals are you help us first, and then we'll do the thing for you. But either way, you want to seed it in the minds of your players to actually consider this stuff. There's parts of the dungeon overall that can be effectively super hard. That by playing it the right way without even combat means you can avoid threats. You can use these guys as fodder, right? Almost like henchmen. Like, you'll come with us and do this? Yeah. Okay. Emphasize social interaction. So you want to emphasize this. A common misconception is the Temple of Elemental Evil is only a dungeon crawl. That's what I'm talking here. It isn't. Some of the most important information in the campaign comes from talking to people. NPCs can provide rumors, warnings, opportunities, alliances, clues about faction conflicts. Players who spend time building relationships and gathering information should often have an easier time than players who immediately draw swords. Information is power. And let it be so, because they can hear many ways to get a hit. It's not hard, right? So you want to emphasize that talking is worth it. Maybe you want to have an NPC talk to the characters in Hama and just say, talk to people. You never know who you might be able to sway to your side or trick them, right? Seed it in their minds to do this stuff early on through other NPCs at Hamlet, people they interact with. Maybe, ironically, it's even somebody in Noel who's not like the greatest person, but he's like, hey, you know how I fucked them over? Here's what I did. And he could tell you how they have a certain issue with each other. That's more information. And suddenly this thief is now giving you a good deal, right? So, in a way, even doing a favor for somebody who's not so sweet can get you information, right? The temple should react. The temple is not frozen in time. If adventurers repeatedly attack and retreat, guards become alert, defense improves, reinforcements move, leaders change plans. Dungeon should feel alive, meaning you took out some there, so when you go back, there's only a few. There might be more now. And actually, if they think you might come back, maybe they'll move up ahead and meet you earlier, unexpectedly. Right. So it's allow the people inside to change how they're approaching if they think you could come back and see them in a weak position. So now it's like, let's not be in a weak position. Let's double the amount of guys that were over there before. Okay. So don't go in blindly. The dungeon, like I said, should feel alive. Players should see consequences for both success and failure. This is one of the features that makes the temple feel more realistic than many adventure modules. It's not a video game, right? So realistically, if it's easier for you to break the line at that point because of some stuff you did but retreated, they don't want that line broken. So now it's reinforce the line, put a new trap down, move the guys up ahead, right? So players should be very careful, and a good DM is going to make adjustments to make it harder, not make it easier. Teach players that this is a war of attrition. Many players approach the temple expecting to clear it in one grand assault. That is rarely how the campaign works. The temple is designed around searching, investigation, reconnaissance, retreat, recovery, resupply, return. Characters gradually wear down enemy forces while learning more about the temple's secrets. Repeat expeditions are not a sign that players are failing. Repeat expeditions are how the campaign is meant to function. So the idea of them retreating out, patching up their wounds before they go back in, this is classic old school play. And here it is expected. So they're not failing if they have to leave because they're weak. Failing and making sure they're ready for the next part is the right move. But it doesn't mean the next part's going to be easy. So it's always about getting out and understanding there could be more guys when you go back there. But at least you know where guys are. So do you want to go back there or do you want to try to avoid that place? So it's that type of thing. Just make sure there's an understanding. Have an NPC point out to them, like if you go down to this place, man, you cannot go through there and get in there and just get out and be done. Like if you want something there, you want to find out what the secret is behind that place. No, man, you got to go in, be careful, get what you can, come back out, man. Take a time out, catch your breath. Don't try to run through that place all at once or you won't come back. Make retreat a normal part of play. A common mistake is treating retreat as failure. In old school D&D, retreat is often the correct decision. Remember, it's a lot less about focused combat. Combat's like a consequence, right? So if you can avoid combat, that's what you should be doing. And if you do get in combat and it doesn't go your way, the game is about what? Survival. So if survival is the key, you don't stay and fight till you die. The right move is to take off. We're overwhelmed, go. Don't keep fighting, go. The temple contains encounters that can overwhelm reckless parties, allow players to withdraw, regroup, recruit, help, meaning there could be other people around being greedy in there that would help them, like, yeah, I'll help you. There could be a warrior or two who is down with a cleric who prays at the temple trying to get the evil to go away, but you convince these guys to go in with you because you're going to go deal with the evil itself. Right? They come down as you're coming back out, like, what are you guys doing here? And now you got a cleric and a warrior who's come down here to do some weird praying. That guy could help you. There's other people around too, but the DM can add some additional people in there just randomly, like henchmen types that would help without pay. Yeah, we'll come in and help you get rid of this evil, right? Or maybe you find a thief, or maybe you find some other people saying, we're down here and we're consider going in the temple to see if there's any gold. Well, why not come in with us, right? So recruit help, gather supplies, return with a better plan. The campaign becomes more interesting when survival matters, because that's what the game is all about. Resource management matters. The temple was written during an era when resources were a major part of gameplay. Players should constantly consider hit points, spells, equipment, ammunition, light sources, food, and time. A party that presses too far without planning should feel the consequences. Managing resources is one of the core challenges of the campaign. Meaning, you could consider bringing a wagon down, hiding it somewhere with extra ammo that's just not easy to carry on you, like some extra this, some extra that. Stuff you can't just carry on you all at once, but if you run out, you can come back out, go to your secret hiding spot, get the extra ammo, load back up, be ready, maybe camp out for the night, heal up, redo spells before you just go out and do stuff. Encourage hirelings and henchmen. Many modern groups ignore hirelings completely. The temple was written during a time when larger adventuring groups were common. Do not discourage torch bearers, porters, men-at-arms, henchmen. Many encounters make more sense when viewed through the lens of old school party structure rather than modern four-person adventuring groups. So Make sure there's people at Hummel, maybe even in Nome, wherever, that are definitely willing for a decent deal to team up with everyone. Yeah, we'll work for you. Or maybe they'll even work with you. Right? But the idea of finding hirelings and henchmen, people you can hire, people that work with you, don't make that a struggle for the group to find. Be okay with them finding some NPCs to bring here. Completely okay. Like it's if they're smart and wise and they take the time to talk and look for the stuff, reward the effort and do that. At least with opportunities. Talk to the right people, do the right things. They could get some help. They can get some fodder. Don't balance every encounter. Modern adventurers often assume every encounter is designed to be fair. The temple is not built that way. The players can encounter enemies that are too powerful, too numerous, poorly positioned for frontal attacks. This is intentional. Do not secretly adjust every challenge to match the party's level. Part of the old school experience is learning when not to fight, which is quite often. You know, it's saying don't be sympathetic with D&D. D&D is a challenging game, right? So the idea is don't soften up to make it easier for player characters to go through. Maybe they run into encounters where it's just like, we are not ready for this yet. We got to get out. We got to rethink this. That's part of it. And when people run into encounters like that, players and that, and you do not hold back, you're not looking to have them die, but they know you're serious. It's an instant way to get players to take you more serious as a DM. You know, character death, if you're just fair about it, you don't try to have the characters die, you just let it happen. Or them losing fights where they got to retreat because you're just not sympathetic. You're not just making it easier. You get respect from players. Players know to take your game serious. And if you want them to start playing your game in a more serious way, it's best to establish that by not forcing the stuff, but just not being sympathetic when it's there. So do not fudge your dice. Do not say, 4 more guys were coming up, but maybe I'll just make it like one guy shows up. No, 4 guys show up. That's too much. They got to retreat. They got to learn how to play this, not you adjust the game so it's easier for them to keep going forward, especially because that can trick players too. At certain points, you'll feel like you have to overwhelm them anyway with certain challenges, and yet they stay there thinking it's going to work out when it's not going to work out, right? Use rumors generously. Information drives this adventure. Rumors should constantly point players towards opportunities, dangers. So some could be lies. Treasure. So it could be like telling you in the temple, look for this room. It says this on it. This will have a treasure. Could be a danger too. Could be opportunities. Like if you go here, you can actually skip this floor, and this floor is very dangerous. Or this area has a trap in it, so they can know. Background noise, we'll let that go by for a second. Okay. So dangerous treasure, faction conflicts, hidden locations. You see, the rumors you want them to know about, like hidden locations. Some rumors should be true, some partially true, some completely false. Players should never feel like they have perfect information. They should question everything they're told and who they're getting it from. Make the wilderness matter. The wilderness around Hamlet is easy to overlook. Don't use travel to create suspense, discovery, resource pressure, unexpected encounters. Like you think you're going to go, man, it's dangerous at the temple on our way there. Well, it's dangerous here too. The goal is not to make the temple seem distant. The goal is to make the approach feel increasingly dangerous and unsettling as players move closer to the source of the corruption. Meaning, it's realistic for them to run into monsters closer to the temple because of the sort of evil influence overall the temple has on the area that it's in. Reward clever play. This adventure was designed during an era when player skill often mattered more than character abilities. Reward players who ask questions, form plans, gather intelligence, use the environment, explore enemy weaknesses. Not every problem should be solved with a die roll or a sword swing. Meaning, when players are being creative and they're asking questions of you, not for you to give them the information they shouldn't have, but they ask like clever questions, like there should be something they're looking to know, and maybe it's hard, and he's trying to figure out like, no, by looking around the forest here, by looking up around, would I know there's something more dang, like could I see something with that? Is there some sign sticking out to me? Consider what you can do for a player at that point, like without just giving the whole thing away, like hints, right? What hints can you give them? Like, there could be something up there, like hints that can lead them to understanding what they're approaching, right? What they're doing. So when asking questions, very important. Forming plans. When they're forming plans, consider the plan that they're forming, and don't think of ways it's going to fall apart. Think of ways privately as a DM. How could that end up working? Maybe have an NPC there. So even if the plan is not exactly the best for what's really ahead, maybe an NPC can speak up and go, well, your plan's not bad, but what if we just do this and make an adjustment here? So it's reward the effort by trying to even further make it better. Gather intelligence. When they're looking for stuff, be as generous as you can be at letting them find stuff, right? Use the environment, using the place around them. Can I, get down really low so they can't see me? Sure. Some cases you can just say yes or no to dice roll. Not everything is, let me make an intelligence check for the orcs or for the hobgoblins or for the whatever. It's just, you go, yeah, okay, they're not going to see. Now, it doesn't have to work perfectly every time, but saying occasionally you can just go, yeah. So exploit enemy weaknesses. It's just basically, it could be things where they're paying attention to something else. So even though you could be slightly noisy, they're just not going to hear the guys going through. It's like you could have just made noise. You see them and you back up, and guess what? They just haven't seen the guys. They're just completely unaware for other reasons. So it's be nice. Be nice as much as you can to the effort players are making to avoid. Like, oh, we go around the corner right quick so we don't get caught. Right? It's be as nice as you possibly can, because there's going to be areas where you just can't be nice. Not if you're a fair DM. You're going to let things, it go. So be considerate of all these things, because when your players are making an effort, the more you do reward the effort, the more they keep making a similar effort. And that's what you want throughout the game. Build the feeling of ancient evil. The temple is not merely a dungeon full of monsters. It is remains of a defeated evil power that is slowly awakening. Emphasize abandoned halls, forgotten shrines, signs of corruption, strange symbols, evidence that something is returning. The atmosphere should feel like uncovering a threat that was supposed to remain buried. It's like something's covered up and they move the stuff, and they start finding that evil symbol. Or as they walk into a room, something crumbles down like dirt, and from it is this old like evil face, right? The dirt has fallen off as they enter the room. It's letting them know like something's coming back. Don't expect the campaign to be fast. The Temple of Elemental Evil is best viewed as a campaign rather than an adventure. Players may spend many sessions investigating Hamlet, exploring the wilderness, navigating Null, gathering intelligence, fighting minor threats, learning about cults, planning expeditions. If you rush towards the deepest levels, you lose much of what makes the module special. Let the world react to the player's decisions. Let factions pursue their own goals. Let the temple evolve. If the players surprise you, follow the consequences rather than forcing them back into a predetermined path. So be willing to improvise some of this, a lot of it. The best temple campaigns feel less like completing an adventure and more like surviving a long struggle against an enemy that refuses to stay dead. There you go, folks. That's the Temple of Elemental Evil. I've never done a module on here before, so that's the first and probably only module, D&D module I'll ever cover in that way. Maybe. I am considering doing another one, but only one more. I hope that was decent. I don't know. I don't honestly know. It's up to you guys how you take that in. Um, I really hope. I really hope that was okay. Uh, the how to run it. If you're new to like the whole thing, and you've never done Temple of Elemental Evil, that advice is anybody who knows Temple of Elemental Evil. There's no way they're going to disagree with what I said. Like everything is on mark. Everything's on point. Now, this weekend, Saturday, I'm covering the game Prince Valiant RPG and then Didlands. Just in case you want to know. Just in case you want to know. I've never done module before, so that's the first module I've covered. I hope for the people that like the modules out there, I hope that's good enough. I really hope they're happy. I hope anybody who's actually played it is like, yeah, that's it. I don't want it like it's like reading a comment. Oh, I'm glad, Zeg. I'm glad that comment inspired you, my friend. I appreciate you leaving your thoughts there. I really appreciate that. I think maybe Black Rose said something. Give me a second, Black Rose. I'm just doing something right quick. You're welcome for that one. I don't know if you're ever going to run that, Mr. Man. Tomorrow, I'll definitely make sure I schedule it tonight. Backrooms 2026 tomorrow on the movie, on the entertainment channel. Backrooms 2026. You're welcome. I don't know. Which one would you consider then? I wonder details. I don't know all much about it beforehand. Let me see. Which one? All right, I'll tell you which one. I think that's what you're asking. I think I see what you're asking, my friend. The Tomb of Horrors. I played it, so I'm considering covering that one. Yes, I'm just glad I'm glad it inspired some thoughts from you. I really appreciate you taking the time out to share them, Zeg, and I hope that was something that got you to think about that and say what you got to say. So I'm glad it got you to think. And thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. Yeah, the Tomb of Horrors, Black Rose. I've only played like a few modules because I've never ran them. Tomb of Horrors is, yeah. I figured that one's well enough. I want to hit ones that are well known because it's the only couple I've actually played. Yeah, I think the Tomb of Horrors is actually worth trying. And look, I wanted to prove a point. I've never covered a module on here before. First one. I just wanted to prove a point to people that I don't totally oppose modules, but I'm just not the biggest fan. I personally, my favorite way to experience D&D is as a DM, and it's through sandboxing. The Tomb of Horrors is really famous, and at least that one I know more than the basics. I'll be doing it for sure. That one you'll be able to talk about a bit. Definitely. I would have loved to have someone around who knows the Elemental Evil, the Temple of Elemental Evil, just so they could tell me they were happy with the stream. Because I know anybody who's a fan of the Temple of Elemental Evil should be happy. And if they say, well, you're going to mention this, you're going to mention this, you're going to mention this, it is an overview. And the idea is to give a successful overview without giving every fucking detailed secret away about the module. That is intentional. It's not to say, uh, I played it. I know it well enough to see how the person who ran it ran, and I've talked to the guy who ran it for me. Right? I understand how to run the whole thing. I ran the games forever, so I get to how to run it. I really do. And what I like about it is it's more freedom. It's a little bit more sandboxing, as in there's a lot more improvising that you can do, a lot more let players do what they want to do. And I prefer that type of gaming style anyway. So the Temple of Elemental Evil, the whole package is way more appealing to me as far as instead of feeling like you're restricted down to like a extreme railroad, there's a lot of freedom to do whatever. And there's a freedom for the players to approach it however they want. It's not a clean sandbox. There is some direction, but I think it's still good because there's a lot of freedom in it. And there's not much of the same freedom in some of the other options, right? That one's really free and really puts a lot of heat on a DM to be open-minded about improvising, making stuff up, and a lot of tools to do that. So that one's okay. I don't mind. Tomb of Horrors, interesting enough. I think it's worth giving a shot to. Though, I mean, my preference is always to make my own stuff. And all that Hamlet is, from Hamlet to the temple, is it's somebody sandboxing their game and then selling it to you. That's all it is, just a sandbox. And you develop all the details you see in there are all things that you could develop over time. Now, the unique thing about a sandbox like that is imagine you had a group of players, which is not always easy to do, but a group of players that were willing to really explore every hook that you put into the game. That's the one benefit to game design those guys did on purpose. Your home group will ignore a lot of your hooks. This is the thing I talked about before covering Temple of Elemental Evil. A lot of guys do this much work on their town or whatever. They can write 23 pages of fucking potential hooks and everything for a thing. And then players maybe participate with 2% of it. And that's an experience for a lot of DMs. That's why I talked about it before covering the thing. That's an experience. I just understand that, right? You could do a lot of work and very little bit of it gets actually played. It's a magic feeling when you can run into a group of players that don't just care about fighting, but they want to try every aspect of the game and uniquely are purposely not looking to just do what they want, but purposely looking to see what you have come up with for ideas. And then, of course, going at it whatever way they want, but them exploring your hooks on purpose. Like you put a rumor out there. So instead of them going, oh, we'll just do something else, they go, okay, we'll go after that. Oh, you will? Yeah. And then they'll look for another rumor that you put out there. They'll purposely start looking for stuff that you can start aiming them at your hooks. And instead of them trying to do what they want, they actually purposely go after them. Right? Now, you're not running a module, but it is what it is. Now, the mentality with a module is, at least players purposely do go after the hook sometimes. That's why the Temple of Elemental Evil, the full package, can be a little bit of fun because you have players that will intentionally go after the module hooks instead of avoiding it. When you do your own games, it's not that you're doing much different than what you see here with the Temple of Elemental Evil and Hamlet. It's just that a lot of players will just freely do what they want. That's why I say don't detail out your 23 hooks, but just have the hooks as ideas. And then as they go after them, like have little ideas for each, as they go after them, well, then you see how they interact with them and you develop them out. You, between the sessions, as they go after the hook, you start improvising how the hook will work, who they can connect with. You have some ideas, but you don't get to have fucking lots of information on each one. And then between sessions, when they decide to interact with a hook, if they do, then you do that. And sometimes when you can make hooks and players won't go after any of them. And actually, that's sort of good. It's not bad for sandboxing, because sandboxing could be you had 7 hooks, but players go do something else. But then you start seeing hooks. You, like I say, as a DM, become an opportunist. Opportunist means you could have had 6 ideas, but they go down here and they're doing something else. You're like, oh shit, I can make an adventure out of that. Okay, I'll get this guy to offer them something. Be an opportunist and be open to coming up with ideas as you go forward. Right? So that's your own. But if you want to do the module, do the module. I don't know how many people will be happy with this one. I doubt a lot, but hey, it's the Temple of Elemental Evil. And the best part at the end is my advice. It would seem general, but to anyone who's ran the Temple of Elemental Evil, there's no way they heard my advice and said, that's bad. They'd be like, yeah, that's good. Like everything I said is solid at the end. It's very open-minded. It's planting seeds in your mind because some DMs don't do certain things. There is a problem where they rush people ahead. They do a lot of these little things wrong. And to plant seeds in the minds, get players to think about things, and even potential players coming along part of this, they hear me explore Hamlet, ask questions, negotiate, take care of factions, or to rewarding certain gameplay where a lot of DMs forget to even do that stuff. They don't even think to say, hey, I should answer to that. Or if they're making an effort, I should really try to not just give a cheap go-ahead. Bad ideas are bad ideas, but any effort your players are making, if they're making an effort and you want that effort to continue, if there is a possibility of a positive being spun up for them without cheating, without ruining the experience of the game or the challenge, well, you let them figure something out. You make sure they do. You don't just half-ass as a DM. Don't get careless when you see effort. Don't get mentally careless. Pay attention forward. And when you hear, you want to know what that means? You want to know what effort means? I tell DMs this all the time, or game masters in general. You want to know what the effort means? Your players are focused on playing the game. That's what an effort means. It's not just them making an effort and you want to reward good gameplay. It's not just good gameplay. It's that they're focused on playing the game. And you don't get better than that. That's the best sign you could look for a group of players. If they're like fucking trying to put good ideas together and they're fucking like this and they're all, you're in magic zone, baby. You want that to continue. Whatever attitude they have, that's, when they're talking like that, you're in flow. You're in flow. And you want them to want to stay in it instead of feeling like it's not worth it. It's like if they keep making an effort and focusing on the game and you're careless and they're constantly not getting anything from their attempts, players will get discouraged mentally. It's like, why even try? You'll get that attitude. And so it's small things, but it's things you should care about. There we go. 2 more horrors. Yes, 2 more horrors, Black Rose. Did you run it? Because I can imagine, here's what I'm going to assume, because people put such a high standard on me, that for me to do an overview of Temple of Elemental Evil and do it well, I think I've done a great job. But I just know people out there, because I know there's certain things I purposely have not mentioned. And I'll have people out there, I guarantee by tomorrow, he didn't mention this, so he's lying. He doesn't know the Temple of Elemental Evil. It's a famous module set, dude. I know it. I haven't played it in decades, but I know it. Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. See, yeah, all right. I wish people, I mean, anybody who knows it well enough should just be honest with themselves when they heard me. It's like, no, this is a good stream. It's a good stream covering that whole thing. Right? It's good fluff talk. It's good to understand the Hamlet was standalone. It's good to understand how valuable the Hamlet town or village is. Right? And if you're a fucking designer, if you're someone making up your own stuff, understand the village, the Hamlet village as a great place, as sort of a base location. It's really valuable. It's like I saw stuff is really extremely, it's really early stuff, and it's stuff that inspires so much after. It's like the reason I wanted to talk about this one is there's so much developed from it. So many ideas came from this. Like a lot of things that you think are classic to D&D, well, they weren't classic at one point. They were, hey, it's just being done for the first time. So before you know it to be classic D&D elements, a lot of these so-called classic D&D elements are found here. And it's great to go check them out and get your own ideas from it, because trust me, you will be inspired when you dig into this stuff. And what if you've never ran a long campaign? What is it to run a long campaign? Like, what are you doing? How can it last? Long campaigns are there's lots to do, more than just fighting fights, right? Saddens me when people don't want to explore the game more. And it's so much to the game, like interacting with the NPCs, having Hamlet come to life. Because it's like, if you're only after combat, how could that ever be? You won't talk to NPCs. You won't have conversations. You won't find information out. That stuff is actually really interesting. It's trying to understand who the NPCs are, get the information, talk to people, and don't just treat them like quest givers. Like, they should just be real people, and you run them as real people. And of course they know stuff, and if there's a natural reason why they would say the thing, have them say it, but don't force it in. That's all I'm saying is, don't treat them like quest givers. Like, oh, when he went to talk to, or they went to talk to her, so she's going to tell them about the thing. No, she's going to talk. She's just there, and there's a personality. Now, in the midst of that, if there's a good reason to go, oh, you guys want to know, but make it more natural. Because if you just focus on just talking with the NPC, and then and become an opportunist, then the opportunity to mention the gimmick, it feels more natural, more real, right? Yeah, the whole point of the RPG is to role play. There's loads of kill simulators out there already. Exactly say. And it doesn't mean I oppose combat. Yeah. That's it. Like every aspect of the game should just exist, and you should enjoy it. And it really is. There's so many aspects that are interesting. And if you actually give a shit, if you just stop wanting the one thing, it is actually interesting. All this shit's interesting. It really is. That's why it disappoints me. It's like, and there's some games out there where combat really is secondary, like Bushido. Bushido doesn't have the best reputation, but I absolutely love it, and I love the social aspect of it. And it's fucking wild. And if you can actually get into social, if you look at everything sort of like competition, which it is, even talking to people, it's just unique. And Hamlet's really great. Like, you always want things to feel natural. So even when you have, and that's good for any game you run, even when you have an NPC in your own idea that has information, they could tell you about a mission you can go do. But should the NPC just instantly make sure they're telling the characters that? No, even in your own sandbox gimmick, have them walk up to an NPC and they talk, and the NPC will talk. Look, I call it become an opportunist. An opportunist is wing it. That's like improvising. So you wing it. You just have talk without the pressure on you to have to give the idea for the mission. It's actually not challenging to you, the game master. It's actually really easy just to talk as the NPC. And it feels way more slick and way more real and way more fun when either the players are asking questions or the way something is brought up, you go, well, this is where he would mention about the mission. He would definitely point it out now. And then it will seem like him mentioning about the mission is way more natural to the dialogue. Like, oh, yeah, he would say it. And guess what? Sometimes, if you don't ask the right questions or spend enough time talking, you don't get the mission information. There's no reason for the NPC to have told you that. So you move on. That's information you're not getting. So the idea of the cults and all that, you could find that out if you talk to people for a period of time. It's you make the effort get rewarded on all ends. Now, as players make the effort to talk to an NPC, here's what you'll notice. when they're rewarded with information for a mission or something, the value of then talking to people a bit more and asking questions starts to make sense. Right? That's when you have players learn. Oh, we should be asking more questions. Because that guy just did not just tell us naturally. It was not forced. And then they started wondering, what were you told about the other guy? And then here's a great experience. Look, you don't want to fuck players over. It's not something you celebrate, but you want them to learn something that should make the game way more interesting. They got information from a guy. They get to the temple. They go to look for a thing. They were told about it. And it's not there. Because they were lied to. It's a brilliant moment to know you've been fucking lied to us. That's not here. Right? And sometimes the lie could be obvious, but players don't always pay attention. Hello, traveler. Oh, what a lovely name. Now let me tell you the deepest, darkest secrets and how you could resolve my problems. Okay, sure, but only came in to buy some cheese. That's the unnatural part. That's the part where you're sort of laughing at a DM. That's exactly. Yeah, Zach, you hit it over the fucking park. That's exactly what it is. Like nobody just fucking tells you all. It's video gamey that in these role plays can be better than that. 1,000,000%. You got it. You fucking hit it out of the park there, Zach. That's exactly it. Nobody in life just tells you some shit like that and they don't know you. They don't know you. They're going to tell you all their fucking issues. And look, there are some odd, weird, socially weird people out there. And you could definitely have odd, socially weird people that will tell you some weird shit. But that definitely shouldn't be everyone. And it's more realistic that, yeah, you're a stranger. They're not going to open up to you until there's a reason to open up to you. And so it really is on the players. Remember, it's the players' challenge to get information. It's not just you get. So it should be the players have to have their characters talk to this guy a bit more, ask questions, open up the dialogue, and then you, like I said, it's more common sense than you think, but it's it's that realistic opportunity of, okay, you guys are going down there, yeah, it's going to be dangerous. Well, you guys have been pretty nice. You guys seem pretty nice. Let me tell you something about that place. Like you get to that point in the conversation where you spent time talking to this guy, you think you're really nice, yeah, and you ask him, boom. It's that natural, exactly, Zay. That's exactly what you want. It's something more realistic. And you don't want it to feel video gaming. That's why you don't want players who are playing characters who are like, man, let's bypass this and go look for a fight. It's like the fights are coming, dude. That's what I would tell players. Like, just fucking relax. The combat will come. Just take a breather. Like, it's not like you're going to avoid combat in the fucking game. It is there. Do not worry. You don't have to rush to it. Yeah, the odd guy should do that stuff within reason, but not necessarily needed. You can make fast friends, but I tend to put the brakes on a bit. Well, that's it. Unless you have a guy who oddly tells you too much. There can be people like that. But for the most part, it's, look, dude, you got to talk to this guy. And you got to bring stuff up. And you got to, now, the courage to ask questions can help. Because if you think to ask questions, some people will feel pressured to tell you some stuff. Hey, would you know like a good place to go where you can get a job? Possibly. And even that's not even just instant, but more like he might ask you what you're doing, why you're doing it, who you're looking for, and depending on what you say, even then, can decide if he's going to tell you more or not. All right, so it's how honest do you want to be, and that, and so yeah, of course, and that's where you just say to players, think about the conversations like the combat. If you make careless mistakes in combat, you're going to die. If you carelessly talk to people, they're not going to tell you everything, or even tell you anything. So I think in many ways, every aspect of the game is meant to be challenging, and that includes social, right? So playing that realism helps you create the challenge because, again, like you say, nobody's just going to tell you, so you got to dig. But no one's just going to tell you how to win the fight either. So you got to make the right moves or maybe retreat. And that's another thing in combat in old school. It's meant to be diddling that. Like a lot of guys don't like realistic combat, but I don't think any combat is realistic. I just think combat's dangerous, and that's the closest thing you can apply realism to. But combat can be dangerous. It really depends on how you approach it, right? So not all approaches to combat makes it extremely dangerous. So it's a simple view on everything people have. I hate that. I hate a simple view on everything. Don't have too many simple views, because combat doesn't have to be as dangerous if you approach it in a certain way or do certain things. But you can get caught off guard. So in a game that's about survival, which is what D&D drills into your head, it's okay to retreat. It's okay to make a tactical retreat, as they would say. Right? And it's okay for a paladin. Well, the paladin wouldn't run away like a bitch. A paladin would make a tactical retreat with the idea that he, in his mind, be going back to fight again. Right? Just in a bad, like you're in a bad spot. It's like, okay, we'll retreat for now. He might say it that way. We'll retreat for now. It's not a cowardly move if you look at everything sort of like everything's a conflict, or even the conversation. We'll retreat from this conversation now. This guy's upset. Let's go. We'll come back and talk to him later, like tomorrow. So everything depends on how you view it, depends on how you take it in, depends on how you approach it. It's like goblins. So like, oh man, we're outnumbered. Kill that guy in the back. Well, he's giving them orders and they're listening to him. You want to see a bunch of goblins get nervous? Kill the guy in the back right away. Right? Pay attention. Just pay attention. Take information in. It's all a mind game. It's all a big chess match. That's what these games are. So it's really important to watch everything and every minor thing you can take advantage of. And what can seem really hard, but retreat is necessary. Temple of Elemental Evil really makes that. But it's all dungeon crawling. It just teaches you really old school what you should do with dungeon crawl. Retreat, get your resources back up. Because in reality, you don't have to win every battle to win the war. And yeah, they might be able to put numbers back up, but it's not like any group has an infinite amount of men. So you go keep tearing away at stuff and retreating. You took a few guys down this time, ran back up. It's at one point, they're going to start running out of guys, right? So you don't always have to win every single battle. That's the idea. It's all wargaming mentality, for sure. Dungeon crawling really does have that. Wargaming mentality is that your aim is to win the war, not just win a battle. So you got to sort of look at the dungeon like a war in that way, in that mentality of war. Everything is sort of war that way. But yeah, it's all great seeds and mindset and ways to think. And the game is built around this stuff. So it might sound like, oh, that's easy to say, Steve. No, it's actually good. It's a good mindset to have. These are seeds you should definitely put in your mind as an old school D&D person, because the game is actually built to actually support what I'm saying. It does have this, hey, you're not meant to just go in and kick ass like a superhero, but there is a war to be won. The minor battles are less important in every aspect, from socializing to fighting. There you go, guys. I hope everyone has enjoyed the Temple of Elemental Evil. Now, tomorrow night, Backrooms 2026. I'm excited. I get a copy of it. I'm going to watch it tonight. Backrooms 2026. And I'm going to do a write-up after I watch it, and we'll talk about it. I already got some notes down on it from what I heard other people say about it already. So, yeah. And I won't be, yes, brutally, very, very brutal. I will not be giving away I will not spoil the movie. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Look, it was made in 1971. Sorry, folks. If you go watch that one, I spoil it. It's a 1971 movie. Clockwork Orange, another movie made in the 70s. I spoil that one. I give away a lot of secrets to that. But older movies, I don't care. When I cover new movies like this, Backrooms 2026, I'm not going to spoil it. So I promise if you watch it, I hope just to inspire you to want to go see it. I hope it's going to be good. I've been told many good things by many people I trust. And it's guys where when they tell me it's this good, it never fails to be good. So I'm hoping that's real. Hoping it's real. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And it's hard. It's. I don't know everything about it too, so that's good. And then when we have that talk, it will be fun because I know you'll know a lot about that one. Like tomorrow's talk, I hope just to get you thinking and talking. The Star Wars talk, I know when I bring that stuff up, you'll turn into Motormouth, which is good. I look forward to that conversation. I really do. That will be fun. I do look forward to those movies where you know a lot about them, so we can have a much deeper conversation. Though I felt our Clockwork Orange talk was really good because it was just issues, a lot of issues, especially the politics related to it, which you had a lot to say on. So actually, I thought that conversation again was really good. The Willy Wonka the Chocolate Factory. I knew you had less to say on it, but I think that was just a well pitched stream for people like yourself, right? Especially getting you to get into it, which I hope it is. All right, guys. Okay. I love you.